Post in progress on all group. Minutes. Oh, I am sending you as well in Messenger the links. I totally forgot if you want to post them. I'll send you the YouTube link right now. Actually, I'll send you a message and you could do whichever you want on it. It's both Facebook and YouTube. "45 seconds.
Bro, it's such a beautiful day outside. God, I love to just sit here and chill on a Saturday afternoon. Grandpa, nobody cares about the weather. Man, you need to stop being an angry little purple guy, you know? It's getting old, my friend. You know what's old? You knocked that shield out of your hand. Dude, why are you so angry? Dumb little antenna head. Hey, you two. Knock that off back there. Some of us got work to do, like important stuff. Because this is Michael Rinaldi, and we're coming at you live on AO Mecha.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Backlog Builder, but it's not Monday or Wednesday, so psych! Tonight is Feature Builder. Tonight we have Michael Rinaldi joining us, and man, this guy, where do I even begin? So my story begins with Michael Rinaldi. First time I heard his name was not even a name, it was more of an image of a book. We were at Hornet Hobby here in Toronto, and what happened was we're going through, rummaging through stuff, and the owner had this copy of what looks like a Sazabi, and it's very rare to see like a Gundam that is not in a magazine on a book, for me anyway. So I looked at it and I was like, oh man, this looks good. I start flipping through it, and the guy's like, yeah, this is gonna be this much so and so. But unfortunately, and this is me right now, I was there to buy materials for a project, and it was either get a book, get materials. And man, that is definitely a regret right there, because I came back the following week or 2 weeks and it was sold out. And I did regret it ever since then. And then fast forward a little bit, and I keep hearing his name everywhere, especially in my local scene in Toronto. Torcan is one of the local hobby contest here. And I remember, hey, we're gonna go check out Michael Rinaldi is doing a presentation. It happens to be the same day as Anime North, so I'm not in the same convention at the same time. So I really missed that. Fast forward to Merritt Philbin. This was maybe a couple of weeks ago. He was a Feature Builder episode star as well, and we connected. And he was like, "Man, that was such a good experience, and thank you again, Merritt, for that wonderful interview." And he goes to me, he's like, "Hey, you should totally connect with Michael Rinaldi." Okay, so when you hear that name, it's kind of like, okay, it's becoming a household name. I gotta see this guy, because like, you know what, fate is calling me right now, and I need to connect with him. So I sent Michael a message. And this is me going like, okay, there's this whole stigmata about, in our communities, the whole elitist movement. You guys know what I'm talking about. There's those guys that are just like too high, too obnoxious, too, so into themselves and so in their work, with like really poor comments and just kind of like very bad grand gesture about all their work and stuff. Complete opposite of this guy. Michael has been a very communicative, easy to talk to, really good guy. We chatted a few times back and forth. He pretty much orchestrated how this show is going to be like today. I was like, okay, I like your professionalism. And after connecting with him, finally talking in video and chat with him, really great guy. Guys, probably one of the most genuine, like wholesome builder I've met, and I'm very fortunate to get interaction with, and I can't wait to show you guys more about Michael Rinaldi. You must have seen his book, and I finally end up getting let's see here, the Sazabi SM03 Michael's book. I have a copy of this now. Thank you again for that. And we're going to be talking about this book on top of his other book right now, currently Tank Art number 3. See if that focuses. Great, right here, lots of stuff here. And man, like, my addiction to tanks is definitely coming back on. So anyways, enough about me, guys. Hope you guys are having a good Saturday night. Thank you for joining us. Let's say hello quickly to YouTube. Hey everyone in YouTube Live and everybody in Facebook Live, have a good night. Hopefully you guys are hanging out, chilling. You got your coffee, you got your water. Let's go see what Michael is doing right now. Hey Michael.
Hey guys. Hey, what's up, Ariel?
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm well, buddy. I'm well, brother.
Thank you for coming into the show. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of weeks now. We connected almost, I want to say, a month now, even.
Yeah, been a while.
And I'm so glad that finally got everything.
That's because
down.
your schedule is so busy, Ariel. I have to wait. So it's cool. I get it. It's all right, man.
Oh man, let me tell you about October, okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Like I said, Michael, how is you? Where are you right now, by the way?
I am in Portland, Oregon. It is a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Portland.
Nice.
So
nice.
It's early evening here. It's only like 6 p.m. here. So we're West Coast U.S. For those that don't know, we're a little bit south of Seattle on the map. Yeah. Here it is, just having a good time talking to you now.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it looks nice and bright outside still. Obviously, in my studio, it's like the same color as day or night, doesn't matter, but it is about 9 p.m. Eastern time. And today we are going to be talking about you. Obviously, you've been around the circuit. You've done a few books already. You have done...
a couple.
Oh, sorry?
I said I've done a couple.
A couple of shows. You've done several books as well, and you have been around the model circuit for quite some time now. Lots of stuff happening on that. Why don't we go to the arena? We will do a little quick intro about yourself, and then we're going to dive into some of your work, some of your current projects, and we'll take it from there. So who is Michael Rinaldi? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. No, I started this journey in about 2004, 2005. I went to school for automotive design. A lot of you that know my background, because this is probably not the first time I've talked about myself a little bit like this, where I transitioned from car design into the scale model hobby is just kind of what I was really a hobbyist.
Right.
And the internet forums started about the same time, the world of the internet, 2005. The forums, the model building forums came online, and then I started to do in my spare time, a lot of model building again. It was kind of a childhood thing. Came back around to it as I got older, graduated college, started working, etc.
Nice.
But what happened was the models took off just on their own accord. And a lot of it is because I have a background in painting and colors and a formal education in that. And so that design and those kinds of things really percolated to the top. And it kind of started to show, what was going on with that. So,
do you remember your first models when you were starting off into the
we have a photo of it actually. Yeah, we do.
Okay, so it'll be it'll be in the part of the presentation then. I'm just gonna go ahead because we talked already about your books. You produced a couple of books already. These are the Tank series 1 to 4, and 4 being your current one, your latest one. That's new, right?
We're in a reprint phase actually. Yeah, those 4 books were done up to about 2017, and we've been reprinting those particular ones because they always sell out. And then the SM books are the newer books that we started, the next series in line that I started. So there's 7 total books, but because they sell out as fast as I can print them, I've been kind of in a reprint thing, and that's been the last couple of years of what RSP's been about, is just kind of getting back up to a full catalog of product available. So
nice.
Right now we're starting a bunch of new books. We're from SM4 is actually, it's not listed, but it's on the website, but it is coming.
Awesome.
So we're doing a bunch of new stuff. Yeah.
Oh, and people, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be looking forward to that. I can't wait to see what that is about. We're going to start off with some photos, but like just circling back about your first models. You mentioned it is in the photos. Is this one of your first ones? Or the tank ones?
Yeah. So I come from, I served in the Army, the U.S. Army, in the 80s as I got out of high school. I was a reservist for 6 years.
Oh.
I've always had a love of large machines, trains, planes, and tanks and all that stuff. But I also grew up with Robotech and Macross and Gundam Origins and anime and early U.S. Television shows and Toonami and all that stuff. I grew up with that in the 80s and 90s. So I had a strong mech background as well. But what happened was, as I built the tanks on the internet, the magazine guys wanted me to build them for them. And so I went down that road of publishing in the military world, and it just kind of kept going and snowballed into what the tank arts eventually became.
Nice.
But I did want to get back into another passion, which was as we know, is gunplay. So.
Right on. And going back, like, do you remember your first, exposure to a Mecha model kit? Was it a Gunpla or was it something else?
Oh, it was definitely an old Bandai. Yeah. I'd say probably one of the early 90s kits. Probably a Zaku, or it was obviously like 15 pieces in a box, and it was everything was in 2 parts, and there's no joints, and it's that the old early Bandai stuff. So. I never really built anything, even though I had some in my model stash. I didn't really get into actually building seriously until very recently, in terms of basically when SM3 was being developed. That book was developed. I actually started to build a new Bandai kit, taking it seriously as a professional endeavor, so to speak. So that was 2016, 2017 is when I started to really get into true gunpla models. Yeah,
that sounds about right, because like that was the same time I was doing a project, and that really stood out because like the Sazabi was one of the newer kits that came out around that time.
Yeah.
Your book, obviously, the Verka is definitely dedicated to that, but there was also another mech in there, and there's lots of tips and tricks, and we're gonna get out to that next. So what made you stay? Like what? Okay, so you obviously have a passion for tanks and backgrounds and mecha and heavy things.
Sure.
What made you stay and continue on with this hobby and this?
Well, for me, this is a career. This is, if you guys aren't aware, listening, again, I'm sure some of you know this, but for me, this turned into a career. So I stopped being an automotive designer. I was a freelance designer. I did motorcycles and cars in Los Angeles. We moved to Portland. I've been doing this since 2012 as Rinaldi Studio Press. And when I launched it as Rinaldi Studio Press, it's a full-time 7-day-a-week job for me since day one. So I'm a small business owner.
You make your own passion become your work. So if you're working and you love your work, it's not even work half the time. That's
right. And I feel lucky because I can take a decent photo. I have a design background, so I can do the layouts. I speak English as a first language, even though my grammatical, perfection isn't always on point, but otherwise I can get the story.
It's America. Out. It's pretty much freedom of whatever speech, man.
I've got the British motorcycle hat on and the Millennium Falcon shirt. So that was kind of the transition. Was okay. I had the skill sets.
Yeah.
And the models kind of really blew up, and then I had the background of writing stories and articles about how to build the models. And then ultimately what it was about the paint finishes and the weathering. And then I focused on that, drove it home, and that became kind of the cornerstone of Tank Art series. And there's going to be books well past that in Gunpla series. You know, stuff like the USA Gundam Store has really come back and supported us. They sell the books and they're like, well, we'd love you to do more. And I'm like, well, let's do more. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, so for you guys who are watching and interested in picking up his book, there is a link in the description where you can find it. USA Gundam Store is, carrying his line now. Sazabi Custom, the book that we're going to be talking about that is, Gundam and Mecha realm. You can pick that up on the link description below. You can also use my discount code.
I think they're having a sale this weekend for Labor Day, for the US Labor Day holiday. I think it's a 15% sale this weekend. So
there we go. And then you coupled that with my discount code AOMecha10. There you have it, guys. Check out his book. Yeah. It's gonna be awesome. Why don't we dive into stuff here? We're gonna circle back about your life and all that. Cause I have so many questions, but very curious.
Most of you know I'm pretty chatty.
Oh yeah. So last night when we were doing our AV test, I'm like, hey Michael, I'm probably just gonna need you for about 20 minutes, just to go over the ground rule, kind of like set your volume up, audio. Hour and a half later, I'm like, dude, I'm freaking sleepy, man. Do you have an off button? And this is me telling him if he has an off button.
Just cut me off, man. You're good.
Oh, I will. You watch. No, all good. So tanks, we are looking. I'm not as versed as you are, obviously, with tank.
No worries.
Tank types. What we have on the screen right now are some of your earlier works from what I gathered, and it's still in the tank realm. So, what are some of the stuff that we're going to be looking at in the next couple of slides?
So when I started this as a company, in the historical side of the hobby, when you talk to shops and everything, World War II German armor is kind of 50% of the market in terms of sales. And this is historically held true through aircraft and armor from World War II. Those kit sales are about 50% of the total sales. So from a business standpoint, I started off with a lot of German armor. And what you're going to see is some Panzers and some, actually there are no Panzers in here. Actually, these are all tank destroyers and self-propelled guns. But
and what are the scales that we're looking at?
The gray one, these are all 35th scale. So in our world, well, let me back up. In Gunpla, it's 144th and 100. In the military armor world, it's mostly 72nd on what they call Braille scale, which are little tanks, and then 35th scales, which are about 6 to 8 inches long or so. That's kind of funny, but yeah, it's a big fish. They're right around the same price point, $40 is a master grade. 35th scale armor is really common, really popular scale, I guess you could say globally. All the main tanks, all the tanks of the world are made in this scale. And there's obviously, to me, is kind of is one of the leaders, and there's a lot of other Chinese manufacturers that have come on. And to me, it's kind of the Bandai of the model kit side on the military history side of things. So,
and they don't come like snap fit. These are the types of ones with glue and sanding. Do you believe that like people that like are into Gunpla and started off with Gunpla have it easy, and then when transitioning to tank, it's a lot harder, or is it vice versa?
Yeah. We talked to another interview. We talked about that topic. I think personally, military guys coming into the Gundam world, Gunpla world, the robot Kotobukiya and Bandai world, they're going to have an easier time. Bandai modelers, Gunpla modelers, going over to the military side of things with the fact that everything has to be glued. It has to fit very precisely and has to be glued together, and then they're all in one color plastic. They're all gray or tan or green.
Right.
So you do go through a full painting process with every single project on that side of life. So it is that's the big difference is the colored plastic and the snap fit, and the brilliant engineering Bandai has brought to what we do. It's the other guys don't know about it, that they've never dabbled.
So it's kind of like more of if you start at the hardest level, everything kind of feels easier. It's transitioning from a full model kit, like I'm talking about, like actually putting it together rather than a Lego, like, and people don't like this.
It is
Lego style putting together.
Yeah,
right?
No, it does. And I don't look at, to be true, dude, I've earned my stripes. I don't care. I don't need the glue.
Yeah.
I really love. I appreciate what Bandai has done from an engineering perspective. And so what we see, or what the hobby sees, I guess I should say, is there's a couple Chinese companies that embrace that. And they've done some military stuff, some famous, like there's a P-51 Mustang that is in color plastic that snaps together the way a Bandai kit does. And there's also some motorcycles and some cars
Right.
that other companies have, and I had no doubt that they're looking hard at what Bandai has done and how they do it. So
And
I
is
appreciate
that
it.
something you foresee in the next future designs? Because like I picked up a military, not military, actually Top Gun. I picked up Maverick's Tomcat recently just because like I love the movie. I think I've gained enough experience to put it. But you were correct, because like to me, in my surprise, I don't usually dabble in the armory military model kits. I popped it open and I'm like, so how do I put these things together?
And they don't stay together. So if you want them to like snap up, you have to tape them.
Yeah.
You know, you have
glue
to
them and do the putty and sanding. Yeah, it's a project. So this is gonna be my my winter project, and I'm definitely gonna pick your brains about that. Looking at the screen right now, though, Michael, we have what looks like a spit. No, it's not a spit. Again, I don't know what kind of aircraft this is. This is a.
Okay, so this was a test. So what we're looking at is what we've looked through it is these are some older tank models that are in the tank art books that you've seen before. These are on screen. They're German armor stuff. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth on. And then what I was doing is and I did this with the SM3 book and it's written inside of the book. Like when you talk about what I talk about in testing and practicing here, I'm doing a test on aircraft surfaces for some of the painting and weathering stuff that I do. So this was a little test mule. It's a Tempest, actually. It's a British Tempest. It's a beat up old kit that got tossed around and I use it for painting, kind of testing out what I'm trying to do, because one of the things I talk about a lot that is important to get out to everybody out there is scale.
Right.
It's really important. If we're going to talk about 144th, 1/100, 172nd, 135th, 148, a lot of what I'm talking about is making that effect in the correct size for that project. And that's something I really try to hammer home as a point of order, so to speak.
Definitely. And because of the scale, you want that realistic feel rather than you're painting something in like a swath of like paint goes off and like, oh, that's battle damage. Like, no, it's not. Like nothing's gonna like scrap that at like that scale, and that's really important.
Size. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. Wow. Let's do
a lot of testing then.
Yeah, let's do a quick hello to everybody that's joining us. Michael, you have a lot of activity happening on the YouTube chat right now, and some on the Facebook Live. So I just want to say hello and welcome to the show, guys. I'm just going to try to get some names out there and say hi to everyone. We got Jonathan, we got Davery, R13, we got Jonathan Velasquez.
Nicholas, I see
there he is, Nicholas. So every episode,
Mike Spires,
every episode.
By the BTW, I follow a lot of you dudes that I'm seeing the names of. I do follow you on Instagram. So
awesome. We got Simon Lamb.
Pay attention to what you guys do, by the way. Yeah, definitely.
Hey, look at that, guys! You guys are getting recognized by Michael. That's awesome. I love how tight knit the community can be.
I'm just a regular Joe. I build models. That's what I do.
That's awesome. We have Ranny, we have Mobile Suit Hanger, we have Gundam Junkie. Thank you again for sharing that story. By the way, Gundam Junkie, he shared our story earlier on, so much appreciated on that.
Sweet.
Nicholas Tejadas Sanchez, and every episode I do mention Nicholas Tejadas Sanchez as Nicholas Tejadas Sanchez.
Yeah, I know you do.
Nicholas Tejadas Sanchez, all right? So, he's joining us.
I love it. I watched his interview. Nick, you're out there. I watched your interview. I like your story. I like how you kind of learned as you grew with it yourself. And there's a lot of great elements to that I appreciate that people have taken that up as, if you're going to learn something in the idea of the testament to try to improve with the next project is a big deal to me. And I know we were all having fun. It's not about not having fun, but it's the pressure of the next one you want to do the next level up, and et cetera, et cetera. And so a lot of what I try to talk about professionally is ability to get you guys in a control and precision environment so that you can execute it, and then you see the results live for you guys. And that's kind of what I'm really focusing on in the text of the books. As a whole, as like a cornerstone of like, I'm not trying to tell guys how to build a model or paint a model. I want you guys to give you guys the skill, like the coach. Yeah. Here's how you kick the corner kick correctly to get it in the goal net, that whole thing. And that's really so you can go out and do it. That's really what I want to see. So.
That is awesome. And guys, again, if you haven't yet, check out his book. We're just going to finish off a little bit more here, Michael. Just want to say again, everybody, thank you for joining us. We have Chandra all the way at the West Coast as well. She's a Cali girl. We got Vince. We got, let's see here, Mecha Painter. Andrew Hilton Wig is also joining us. Very big fan of yours as well. Christopher. Owen Atkin, recently following me. Thank you very much for that, Owen. And we got the rest of it, Ranny. And Skyers, Mike Skyers. I'm actually going to try to meet up with Skyers, Nicholas Tejadas Sanchez, and Andrew Hilton Wig tomorrow for our little group meetup. So we're gonna probably
Nice.
converse and geek out about you more.
I've been,
so.
yeah, I've been to Toronto a few times, so I do. I haven't been in a couple of years, and like you mentioned in the opening, Ornate Hobbies. They're good friends of mine, and they had a nice shop, and they brought me over a few times from Portland to give seminars, and so I know quite a bit about Toronto, and really appreciate it. I do love being international and visiting. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And they do
you're
have
looking at a
fans
couple
internationally, right? So it's like that's so
Yeah.
their reach is so great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's continue on with the show here. I have a couple of images here what looks like they're tractors.
Okay.
Or are these military
Yeah,
tractors
that's
or are they
SMO2. That's SMO2 right there. So again, a lot of commonality in the themes of my books is you'll see the background tractor, the blue one and gray one, is a test subject, and the front one is the main subject of the book. And so what I try to do, and I did the same thing in the SM3 book with the Dom Tropin as a test subject to practice on, and then the Sazabi was the actual main project. So again,
Okay.
it's to reinforce, very much like athletics. I spend a lot of time correlating what we do between athletics and model building in terms of to get good at something.
Right.
You got to kind of treat this like an athletic endeavor. Golf, soccer, baseball, whatever it is for you. You need to, basketball, you need to go out and hit your free throws. So you need to practice your brush strokes. You need to practice, because everything that we do is either an airbrush or it's a little brush, and it's thin chemicals, and it's the same for you and me.
Right.
So it's just really teaching everybody kind of how to do that as what I think efficiently as possible, so to speak. So.
Now, when you were doing your tools, do you remember your first couple of tools and what you learned from your first attempt at it?
Well, yeah, because in particular, I do the hairspray chipping. I'm not trying to take it as it's not my technique. I borrowed it from a friend of mine, Phil Stastinkas, but he's another European modeler that introduced it in 2007. But I was at the show when the hairspray technique was introduced for the first time to the model building world.
Right.
Just luckily by coincidence, and then I saw kind of live the potential of chipping is kind of a big deal in the military side of things, and it is relatively important in Gundam. The guys that want to weather and do the weathering. But so when I learned the hairspray, you do have to kind of really step back and practice and really embrace that, like the technique and what you're doing and repetitiveness, and then trying to get controllability so that you can then teach it to other people. Like, well, how do you teach? It's like cooking. How do I teach you how to saute something, over and over and over again?
Oh, it's all by practice and repeat, I guess.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. There's a ton of that going on for sure.
Nice. Moving on to a couple of images here, we have a picture of a truck, again focusing on detail here, lots of weathering and scale, and I'm noticing that's the big pattern, that's the message, that's the core to make your work as I want to say appreciate. It's and realistic is such a relative term. Like, what would you say is something that invokes people when they look at your details?
In the intro of the tank art books, I coined a term, and I know when people coin terms, it kind of frustrates some people, but I called it scale realism, is what I termed it as, the scale/realism, because again, it's bringing it from so that one picture is a trash truck in Portland. When I looked out the window, I saw the top of all rusted and scratchy there, and then I took that. I keep photos on my phone of all sorts of stuff I walk by in town, vehicles, construction equipment. If I see something really messed up.
Right.
The messier, the more patina, the more weathering on a vehicle, I'll pull the phone out and snap away, and people think I'm nuts. But that's what we do.
You know what's funny? You know who did that? Actually, the same words you just said to me, Nicholas Tejada Sanchez. We were walking, and he's like, "Look at this! I love this!" And I'm like looking at it. It's like, "What are you looking at?" This right here, right here. And I'm like, well, it's just like some old metal. It is amazing. It is the best thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, why? So he did take out a photo. You guys, look at this. What I like is like great minds think alike. That's awesome. Now we're talking.
You have to really look outside. You have to look at what goes on in the real world, and it's just really bringing a sense of that into the project.
Right.
It's kind of the balance of the colors and some of that stuff. Like you said, you don't want the scratch to be so large that the story behind the scratch doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? And so I guess the core of it, really, what I like to talk about, and this is something Gunpla, as I build more books, is the storytelling aspect of it's kind of a snapshot, and then it's well, how did it get to that point in its life? What was the lifespan of that? The whole conversation. Like, I think if you watched IBO and if you really were to apply the story of the Calamity Wars with Barbatos and the length of time it survived and what it went through, all the stuff that thing did, like the finish of that thing, you know, so there's a lot of storytelling in the background of these Gunpla and the Mechs, the mobile suits that we, you know, I want to bring from the military side into Gunpla.
Right on, right on. So continuing on with scale realism, we have a couple of images here, and it looks like a tiny, again, like,
oh yeah,
like what am I looking at here?
Yeah, so I did a project for Vallejo. This is all through Vallejo. It's in their Rust book, about 5-6 years ago now. Vallejo paints, and a lot of you guys use them. And it's a 1/72nd scale, so it's a little bit twice the size of a U.S. quarter. I put the knife blade in there, my finger on the other photo.
Right, for scale.
It's a World War II Panzer I, kind of imagined as a post-war 1950s little tractor wrecker thing, you know, where maybe a farmer had, you know, repurposed the chassis for something else, and it was a Rust book, so I needed to kind of weather something up heavily for him. So that was the purpose of it. A lot of fun, that one. Yeah.
The next one here, Michael, we're looking at, again, the plane, again, scale model.
Yeah, more testing. More testing. Yeah, testing 101 right there. And so this is my initial test of Mission Models paints, which was an American paint manufacturer that popped up about 3 years ago.
Right.
And there's a lot of the chemical conversation, and we've never really dived into it too hard. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. And in the books, there's a lot of talk about lacquers and how I use lacquers, and I was a heavy lacquer user for a long time. When SM03 came out in 2017, Mission Models paints also appeared on the scene as well. And I'd already made kind of a personal decision. This was for me about my health and about using really harsh chemicals. And I was, as a professional, I airbrush lacquers a lot, and I work inside this apartment in my other place I used to live.
Right.
So it's a big deal. I don't have a place that I can put a garage and put a huge vent system in, et cetera. I don't have a separate room that I can vent out. So it is important. The Mission Models are all organics. They're all organic compound paints, which means they're basically water-based and super
I was going to say, so it's water-based technique for this one and for the hairspray. Now with the chipping itself, what kind of like material did you use? Is it the salt or some other sand? Like I'm looking at the wing right now.
Hairspray chipping, hairspray chipping is you actually spray over a base color, a layer of hairspray from like a can of hairspray. And then you'll paint on top of that the color that's going to be chipped off, worn off. And then with the brush and some water, the water dissolves the hairspray and it pulls the paint off the top, revealing the lower color. So typically you'll paint a little bit of a darker or like a metal tone or like an aluminum underneath, and then you'll chip off your camel color from the top. But in between the two is hairspray, because it's water soluble, and it doesn't harm anything on the model. It won't harm the paint. It won't harm the photo etch, and that was what it was brought forward to.
But that's only one part of the whole process, right? You have your base coat, you have your chipping effect. The next one I'm looking at here looks like you're going in now with finer details. There's like a little bit more like water or like oil leak or something on the wing that I'm looking at.
So what I do then is the way I like to talk about this is I like to get and this is a great little pro tip, because I see this actually daily. I don't comment on it a lot because I don't want to be that dude, but I see this all the time with everybody out there in the model world. You get your color on. And it doesn't matter if it's Gunpla, aircraft, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you immediately start panel lining.
Right.
What I see is everybody then start putting their decals on top of this. Put your markings on top of the panel lining. What you should probably be doing, and it's a little bit more of like a pro tip, let's be more efficient, you're going to get a better result. Do all your markings, get all your color. So what I'm doing in that one photo is basically testing out this process, but realistically, you want to get everything done, all your colors, markings, decals, stickers, whatever you're doing, get it done first, and then start panel lining. Because that's what happens in the real world. The vehicle is going to come out of the factory with the colors, and the unit's going to put the markings on and stuff, and then it's going to get dirty after that. So do the same process in the model building. And that's what, for the young guys out there, they're kind of like, they jump right to panel line, and then they put their stickers on and their decals on. Like, oh, dude, you gotta redo that now. Now you got to do it twice.
There you go, guys. Keep that in mind. Next project, very intricate. Again, scale realism. Speaking of scale realism, I'm looking at what appears to be a watch beside.
That's just a scale reference. Yeah, that's another scale reference. So that's the finished version of that little Panzer I did for Lejo. It's like a little crane auto wrecker kind of project that I was doing. So the watch is my little Seiko dive watch that I wear, and I put it back, so you can see the scale of it.
Now, we're talking about the finishing on the wing. I guess this is the final product I'm looking at right now on the screen. It has like some weatherings, has some chipping. It
I
has
did some
like
more
the
colors,
rusting.
I did some more tests. Exactly. That's just really in my head. Okay, this is my test, but I want to make it as good as I can in terms of, my techniques and my brush strokes. And so that's really just kind of the practice of that to kind of hammer it home, because I'm going to be doing aircraft in the very near future. And then I want to be able to make sure when I step into that world as a professional, I don't look like an idiot. Like, what are you doing, bro?
Look at this rookie.
Yeah, no. My problem, I like everything. I like planes, I like tanks, I like gunpla. So my interests are
builder.
Varied.
Yeah. What I'm looking at right now, Michael, again, another picture of a tank, and looks like lots of details in this one. The next slide here is like it looks like your typical, what is it, like weathering or like?
These are pigments. Yeah, this will be pigments. So there's a lot of conversation about products. Pigments are a great product when you want to recreate any kind of earth effect or dust or dirt or mud. It has a nice texture to it, and then it dries. And when it dries, it looks just like the actual thing in scale. And it's some guys don't really use them a lot, but I know a lot of tank guys love pigments. And there is some pigment use in the gunpla world. It's a little bit, but it's another good product that when you start introducing and talking about it and doing it stuff, it's a great product for the lower legs of the mobile suits. If you start to apply kind of, what it is, 30 meters tall, 18 meters tall, and the lower level is going to get dusty,
accumulating of dust and like all that gunk as well. Yeah. Now over here to accentuate that, it looks like you're doing the hand painting of what looks like a yellow streak. Like,
that's an exhaust. Yeah, doing an exhaust system, detail painting exhaust pipe. So a lot of times when you start to do the painting, you're going to go through the process of the overall thing, and then you're going to go back through to, you see this all the time. You have to start doing all the detail painting. Right. But then in that world, you have to also weather and get that look early on, especially with like exposed exhaust systems that are rusted pipes and stuff like that, and the battle tracks. Like you have to kind of do that as you go a little bit to build up its final look at the end. So that's what that is. They're just kind of showcasing some of the old school techniques too.
That is awesome, and lots of details on that, guys, especially coming. And this is just the armor stuff. We're gonna get to some of the cool stuff in a bit, but like, let's do a step back here real quick. Let's answer some YouTube questions. Lots of stuff happening, but also on Facebook, JB is watching us on Facebook. We got Kaz watching us, and Yusuf watching us at Facebook. Over at YouTube, lots of activities, guys. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Accent, and I love it.
I know. So I'm gonna try to pick up some questions here.
I think he was trying to do a Latino accent, Nicholas, but I don't know.
I'm horrible at accents. All right, you know this. I pick on him all the time. This guy.
Yeah.
Wait. When this show is done, I'm gonna have my own Michael Rinaldi accent coming in. I'll talk like this guy after.
I do a few.
From Chandra, ask him about his tattoos. What's your tattoos about? Can you give us a little story?
There is a Sazabi right here. Believe it or not, that's a really bad rendition. It's a long story. If you ever get a tattoo on the base of your forearm, my bone is right there.
Oh,
and I had to lay upside down like this, and the poor girl was trying to like replicate the thing I'd done. And so
is that usually what she does though, like robots and mechs, or is she just a general tattooist?
No, she was another mistake. Don't ever go to a tattoo artist. Don't ever go to a tattoo artist that's just starting out. Big mistake. Because she didn't know the inks really well. She didn't know like how to get like the gray wash of the ink and what I was trying to do. And then and then I've got a bunch of floral stuff there, which I'm a longtime dog owner, and all the flowers represent all the pets I've had. And then I've got this is Afro Samurai. Those of you that like hardcore.
I love Afro Samurai.
Afro's the man. But this is to me Afro Samurai, and the reason I got that as an actual tattoo was the son becoming the father arc story. That kind of that story that's told so many times. It's really relevant to my personal life. So my dad was in the military. My dad built models. I kind of did the same thing, and I follow along that path. And so it was always that anime always hits home for me.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
It's a good one.
That's a really good story, and the thing is, it's relatable, especially with everybody that I guess is watching. And if you guys, the youngins who have not seen Afro Samurai,
it's my top. It's Samurai Champloo, Afro Samurai
meets
Samurai
Boondocks. 7. Like style of art was like Boondocks a little.
It predates Boondocks by a little bit, but even the edginess and that flavor, just Samuel Jackson is the voices. I mean, get out of here. And then Lucy Liu comes in on the part 2, and I think Ron Perlman's in it. If you like Ron Perlman as an actor.
Lots of stuff. We're going to do a quick break. Stick around, guys. More from Michael Rinaldi after this. Hey, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the stream, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the show so far. I just want to let you guys know about an amazing online community that I'm part of, and it's called Side 6. Here, you will find like-minded modelers and hobbyists who enjoy the mecha and gunpla genre. We encourage posting of whips, projects, and tutorials to help each other move forward in our hobby and in our community. We are always open to new members of all skill levels, so come check us out at facebook.com/groups/side6. We also have an Instagram where we feature members' works, and you can find that at instagram.com/side6_mecha. For all new club information, resources, and news, you could check out our website at www.side6.club. All right, let's get back to the show and see what's going on there. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. And if you are just joining us, we are here tonight with Michael Rinaldi out there in Portland. We were just talking about some of his earlier work. We're talking about some of his experiences with tanks and other vehicles, planes, anything pretty much that can be weathered, he will weather. Pigments, oh my. Speaking of pigments, let's do a quick question. Xiao here has a question about, is there any pigment fixer replacement other than Tamiya thinner?
Yeah, absolutely. So in that conversation of pigment fixer, if you cannot access Tamiya's X28 acrylic thinner, which is what she's talking about, the main weathering companies out there do make dedicated pigment fixers. So if you're purchasing the pigments wherever you source them from, they should also be supplying the fixer, the actual bottle of fixer. If that doesn't work, you can't do that. Simply the thinner of your paint brand, whatever it is that you're using, technically should be working okay. I don't recommend lacquer thinners with pigments in terms of a fixer unit as an agent, so to speak. So usually to me, X28 thinner is pretty easy to get a hold of planet Earth, unless you're just your supplier, you're in a region where Tamiya products are really hard to get.
I see.
If you're painting with acrylics, so the Vallejo acrylic thinners, the other Spanish brands will all have thinners. Avoid enamels and lacquer thinners with pigments. That tends to be my advice, although some people disagree with that. The reason is the actual pigments are ground up paint pigments, and oftentimes, or at least the ones that I've been using, are all acrylic polymer, so on and so forth. So the acrylic thinners will bind them to the base of the model, making them stick better.
Nice.
So
do you fix it afterwards? Like, do you the top coat could still adhere to it without like reducing any type of sheen?
There's a complicated layer of conversation to this. Is when you spray a top coat, especially the aerosol, it tends to dissolve the pigments out. So visually, you will lose the impact because of the handling properties of gunpla. In other words, you need to physically touch them and move them and pose them and all this other kind of stuff. I realize the importance of the top coat. I've technically never used top coats in the military stuff. I don't top coat those. Once the pigments go on and they're fixed with the fixer agent, that's it. You don't touch them. But they're on a base and you shouldn't be touching them anyway. You're not playing with them. They're not, that whole thing. So the gunpla, because you pose them, because you move them, because they require other things. If you're going to take pigment seriously in gunpla, you're probably going to want to consider bases and then putting them in a fixed statue pose realistically. Because once you start touching them, you will... So even if they're
fidgeting and like moving.
Think about it. It's like a baby powder, and if you were to spray something over it, it's not really going to protect it like a shield. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to crush it with you. So you got to be a little bit sensitive to this.
So fixer over top coat, if that's the case, if they are going to go with the pigment types, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. So technically, what you want to do is you want to get a flat base coat on first, because pigments adhere to the matte surfaces better than you don't want to do anything over gloss. It's a huge conversation to have, and I know a lot of guys are probably like, what did he say? Okay, let's set this up. Anything for serious weathering, hardcore weathering, all the stuff that I prefer to like push forward, do it over a matte surface, or at least a really smooth matte surface. Do not use the satins or the glosses or the shinier versions of stuff.
Right.
The reason is you're going to get a little bit more tooth and surface tooth, and it gets you a little bit of a grittier, more realistic finish. When you push chemicals over glosses, the reason you get that really sweet capillary action when you're doing the panel line and it's rolling all through it, it's because it's really slippery. So if you're trying to do all this other weathering on top of the outside of the panel lines, it's super slippery. It's like nothing works.
Yeah, it just glides right off.
Yeah, exactly. So the matte surface is going to be your preference.
Awesome.
You're going to put your pigments down, and then you'll probably have to do that process multiple times. Put the pigment down, fix it. Put the pigment down, fix it. Spray a varnish. Get the look you want. You'll have to do it a couple of times, usually. So.
Nice. There you guys go. That is Weathering 101. Real good stuff. Let's go back to the presentations here, Michael. The next one, we're going to start talking about the SM stuff. So our first, we were just talking about, our scale. We're talking about some of the work practices. I guess the next couple of images here are your practices for the Sazabi, and this is the Dom, I believe.
This was the Dom Tropin. It's an old, it's the HEUC Dom Tropin, which I think has just been reprinted because I've purchased the sand one again.
Right.
So this one's come back around in print. And then I put on like a test scheme, like a test type scheme.
With the orange and white kind of color scheme, right?
Yeah, totally, just for practice. And the purpose of this was to test the hairspray chipping technique in 1/144th scale, and then to practice my oil paint rendering technique for the weathering side, the actual dirty patina look to the finish in 1/144th scale. So you'll see a couple of photos there with the oil paints, and then how I set that up. And then that process is also talked about at length in the books, and all my books all have this process in it. So it doesn't matter what book you buy. I discuss the oil paint rendering technique that I've kind of developed over time. So
oil painting is not something that's common to use. I haven't personally used it for the Gunpla side. I don't know. I think there are some people, like only a fraction of the community would even dabble into the oil paint side.
It would be very new to most of Gunpla, I would believe. You're just actually coming on board with the enamel weathering products from all the other companies. That's a newer thing for you guys. And then to me, it obviously has their weathering brand of stuff too, the little makeup kits, and then some of the panel line stuff in the jar.
Yeah.
I've used all that stuff for about 15 years in total, all those different products, all the stuff out there in the greater hobby world. And what, like I talked about with the health side, I broke away from enamels, and I broke away from lacquers in particular. That leaves you with acrylics and oils. The thing I learned with oils from figure painting, that is in that one photo there with the little cardboard piece there next to the leg, when you use the cardboard in conjunction with the oil paint, what it does is it pulls out the linseed oil from the oil paint, and you're left with kind of a pure liquefied pigment almost. And this becomes very powerful to where you can do just a bazillion types of techniques with rust, dirt, grime, anything you can think of. You can then do with this little palette of colors. And that's what I talk about in all the books. Here we're showing kind of the palette of colors for the Rick Dom, or for the Dom Tropin's leg in the color scheme. I've got whites and oranges and tans and dirty colors. So what I do is sorry. Like I was just like referring to like people who are interested in learning more about it. In your book, it's not just like step by step. You have full paragraphs of sentences, I'm text
of instruction
if
here.
You can't read English. It's a good point. I appreciate you bringing that up because so the final cornerstone of Rinaldi Studio Press, because I was a contributor in a lot of magazines for a long time, they're really compromised in terms of what you can talk about, what you can show in size, the page formats, everything's, the photos are small. You can't see, even like a modern magazine, you can't tell what's going on. It drives me insane. Yeah. And in the books, a lot of guys will go, I painted it green, or, I got it dirty. I used oils and got it dirty. I'm like, dude, you've not told us anything. Like, it doesn't mean anything. It's just conversation. So I really take that to heart in terms of the text in the books. Right. And every book has a how and a why paragraph with every step that I do when you read the books.
I did, yeah. And I was glancing through this. I was reading this earlier on today as I was doing my home stuff. Lots and lots of stuff. Like almost every page. I have not seen a page that doesn't have any type
You won't. No, I almost don't.
On it.
So. Because, and that's the thing with books, is that the reason I chose books over doing like a magazine and being an editor and that whole thing. Right. And I'd done that. I worked as a magazine editor for a little while, and I learned it's just everything's a massive compromise. I felt a better platform to do a book that gave me the space to talk to you guys in particular. And that was really that. I think it's a home run. I think that's really, a lot of guys that read it resonate. They're like, dude, I love like just how you explain it to us, because, I get a lot of emails where guys going, I've taken my stuff to shows for years. I never got anything. And then I read your books. I took it to a show and I got a silver or a bronze or a gold in class.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Dude, that blows you, because you get that one email, dude, your whole week's gold. Like, it's just, you're just, money, I got it. So super. That to me is
no, that's great. Like, and you kept doing that. Like, here, the next photo, we have RSP Q&A session. You've been doing a lot of Q&A sessions, be it online or be it in shows.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a good one because to the history of RSP, I've mentioned a little bit. I had some supplier issues from like late 2017, all of 2018, and then in early 2019, and they're just now starting to get resolved. And there was a lag of products coming out, and I needed to reach everybody. I wanted to stay relevant. I wanted to stay, hey guys, I'm not disappearing. I know we're having some work problems, but book delivery problems, that's kind of difficult stuff. But the Q&A sessions on Facebook, they allowed me to take a topic and kind of like how you host your thing. It was just kind of a verbal one. It wasn't a video or anything, but and then run through and talk about and showcase like this picture here, you take a picture of a reference. Well, how do I make my model look like this photo and that whole thing? And so all my Q&As, and they're available on the website for free. I put them in like one big PDF.
Nice.
For everybody. Yeah. You can download them and the whole
I
thing.
saw that earlier on, guys. The description for Rinaldi Studio is in the description below.
Yeah,
all
you
the
guys
links
can go and check it out. Yeah, and that's just like a thank you. Without the customers, there's no Rinaldi Studio. Without the model, there's nothing. So, and I think there's a lot of conversations past just hanging out at a show or talking to your friends about this stuff, or even on Facebook. When you're in the groups and you're trying to bounce. I wanted to have somebody come in and say, okay, I have this specific problem. And I say, okay, well, this is what you probably should be looking at doing to make your problem go away so that you have success at the end of the day. And that's whatever the topic, it didn't matter what it was, if it was pigment use or chipping or oils or just, put something together. So
when you've obviously started your own company, you have a lot of experience already. Tanks has obviously been one of your earlier subjects. The next couple of slides we're looking at, I want to touch base right now is your books. We have the tank art number 2 here, and so what got you to do
Japanese.
books? Like,
I slipped that in on you. That's the Japanese cover. I'm actually really proud of. This is the first one of the first translated non-English books that I've done, where the Japanese publisher, the ones that run model art.
Nice.
This is Dynip. I slipped that in. I don't know if you catch that. I slipped that one in the little. I love the Japanese. Like they put that little pink slip on.
It's detail. And your book comes with this. Like the translated version comes with this pink slip.
The Japanese one, yeah. If you have to buy it in Japan, but yeah, I personally don't sell it. It was a contract with their copyright license. They were allowed to translate it and print it and sell it. They throw me a bone and et cetera. But, when you just get it in the kanji and you just kind of see it, because of all the anime love and everything, you're like, oh, like
you can't get any more authentic than this is a love letter to you. This is like, hey, Japan, this is us. We love your book. We made it to our own.
Yeah, because a lot of my other competitors in the scale model publishers, a lot of them do a lot of translations. So this was a big deal that my little one-man show could get something translated like that, and I slipped that in for you.
No, it's great. That was a surprise. It's like, what is that pink slip going on there? We have Tank Art and SM01. These are your first, pilot books for your series.
Yeah, so again, like everything I do, you got to run a little bit of a test. And for those of you who've ever tried to ship something around the world, shipping's a pain in the butt, to be PG about it. It's really difficult. Tank Art books are about 1 kilo. They're a little bit over 2 pounds. In the shipping world globally, like if I'm going to ship something in Indonesia, Malaysia, Africa, Israel, Russia, anywhere, it's expensive. It's as much as the book is. And so how do I get model books globally distributed? And so the SM books came in as a format intended to be a more efficient way to ship something.
Right.
They're about 1/4 kilo, they're about half a pound in American stuff. So in the US limbo, and so that's the proportional ratio cover image of the SM1 on one of the Tank Art books to kind of see how it plays out. And that was what I was running a little bit of a test there.
So we went from the heavy big book first, and then you scaled down for these like almost vignette books.
Well, it's one of those things is if you're doing like kind of entrepreneurship and you're kind of like, I'm a model builder, I'm a creative, I got a lot of skills. Dude, I don't know how to sell you anything. That's not what I'm here for. So I made this book. I did all the stuff for the book, and then the book's like 2 pounds. I'm like, dude, well, that's like $30 a ship. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh man. So you kind of have to learn through mistakes, and this is life, right? Learning through mistakes. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, no, it was kind of, coming up with this size, but also having, big, large, clear photos.
Right.
So you make the to-do list, and then, okay, what works. And I kept designing stuff and making prototypes. And that was the end result, was to get a book out in that regard. And so also the SM series is also designed for any subject. Like, there's no limit. It's not tanks, it's everything. So that's why you see a fish submarine, you see a tractor in SM2. SM3 was the first Gunpla book. 4 is going to be a tank, and 5 is going to be a truck, and 6 is going to be an airplane, and all sorts of stuff. So. And
I'm also glad that you're diversifying as well. I know tank was like your starting point, but like all your books have different subjects and themes, and it's nicely focused, but with a lot of like transferable skills, techniques, and that's really cool. And I guess you incorporate that as well, with your Q&A sessions and whatnot. So the first photo, and this is from the SM books, this is the submarine fish. What got you to do this? It looks like a custom. It's just something I've never seen before.
It's actually, and I'm sure there's dudes, I'm sure you guys out there know, Industria Mechanica is a company out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Michael Fichtenmeyer, Fichtenfu. He's pretty well known.
Holy cow! We were just talking about that guy, and that guy has been around. Like, I love his older work. And his
older work is what got me into this.
Oh my god, it's so amazing.
This is one of his early kits. It's the fish submersible, is what he calls it, and it was a steampunk kit. Nice. And so I kind of took it as kind of I bought it way early on to support the dude. Like, it was like an early release. I'm like, I love what you do. Like, I knew him online and Victim Food, and we were kind of, and he sells the books. His company sells our books too.
Right.
And so we just grew as we're both single owner companies, and we kind of, we've been in parallel, and we know each other fairly well. And so, when I launched the SM books, and what I do a lot of times, just for efficiency's sake, guys, is really no other reason, was the kit was already halfway done. I'd already had it painted. I'd got halfway through it already.
Right.
And so it made a lot of sense to finish the kit for the first book, to get the book out, to get going, that whole thing.
Yeah. But that was, how long would you say would have taken a project like this from start to finish? Did you even envision yourself doing a book when you were doing these projects?
No, and then on that one, no. And that's also another hard lesson learned, because what happens is you don't take all the photos that you really kind of need when you're writing an article about what you're doing.
Right.
Like what you do, like you have to prep so much. And so what this SM1 in particular really taught me, you'll see a distinct, and if you have the book, when you go through it, you'll flip through and you'll see a distinct change in the photography. Mm-hmm. And it was because when I picked it up after writing 4 tank art books and then writing SM1, but half of the photos were done from 3 or 4 years earlier. Oh shit, now I got to take new photos, a new camera. I even had a new camera. So it was a whole thing. But that's a big lesson in terms of publishing. Like, okay, so you guys will ask me, hey, do you build a model for yourself? No, I have to take a picture of everything I do, because if it's going to be used somewhere, right, I've got to have a photo of it somehow.
Yeah,
and so
historical records and lessons learned, and you improve on that. So the next photo here, this is from SM2 now, the tractor, okay. I believe.
Mm-hmm. So that's a Russian copy of a Caterpillar tractor from the 40s, from World War II, and again, I repurposed it as a civilian vehicle, and I used some photos coming up here, some reference photos from Portland. From some local construction equipment and some local Portland City municipal vehicles. I put that color scheme onto the tractor. So it's kind of the tie-in of the two, of what I see around me, and then putting the tractor together, then the armor weathering, because it's basically a tank without a gun. So then it kind of showcases the transition, because there's a lot of construction equipment dudes.
So what I have right now, and this is circling back to our earlier conversations with you just walking around taking photos. This is now the slew of photos of you just looking at like some reference materials. Do you focus heavily on weathering, or like what does your eye draw to when you're looking and taking photos?
So I guess you could say technically on a layman's terms, yes, because everything I like to see stuff that's been used. Mm-hmm. So that technically usually means it's weathered. I don't like to make car models of factory fresh automobiles in the showroom, if that's by contrast. That's a different conversation to making clean builds in Gunpla, though. So there's another part of that conversation. But what I am trying to do from kind of the overall umbrella, what's a good term, umbrella is a great term. It's telling a story. The life of a vehicle, to get from that point when it was built to what we're looking at right now, and like what happened to it to make it look like that.
Right.
You know, what is going? And so by the chipping, the scratching, everything tells that story to the viewer. You know, you're trying to get that out to them. Like, you know, how did it get like this?
How old is it? Like, where has it? What kind of weather have this thing seen?
Mm-hmm.
Was it out there during the sun baiting, or was it like chipped by a rock falling, or some stuff like that?
Well, you guys have 4 seasons. Oh, well, you kind of have 4. You have like 3.5.
Oh yeah, we have like 6 half the time, man. You should see the killer Hornets that we get up here.
But you look at any Canadian truck that's been sitting in a field for 1 year that goes through all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
You know what happens when what the truck looks like at day 265 versus day 52.
Right.
And so it's kind of that conversation of, okay, you're going to capture it like a photo. And so storytelling and weathering go hand in hand. It's not, you're just not weathering it to jerk off and get it dirty. That's not what you're doing.
There we go. That's a good point too, because a lot of people tend to like hide their stuff it's weathered or battle damage or, you know, all that stuff.
You can. I get the idea. You broke a track or you broke a joint or something. Sure, I totally understand that. But no, the weathering is storytelling, and that's the purpose of what everything I do as a company. It's storytelling. It's telling that story. And how do you do that? Well, these are the techniques you do. The brushes, the tools.
Speaking of techniques, Michael, I'm looking at a photo here. What looks like to be a desk shot. You have a notebook, you have your palette, you have a whole bunch of brushes. Obviously, this is a shot of your
competition show traveling.
All right.
Let's talk, yeah.
Is this what you take with you when you go on roads? Like, what's going on
Boys
here?
and girls, here you go. This is a show in Hungary, and it's a town. The name is like Mozengai. I don't know. It's a really long name.
Right.
They call it Mozen. Mozen is turned out after about 20 years to be similar to kind of what you guys are in the GBWC world. Mozen is a Hungarian show. It's an IPMS Hungary show.
There we go. Okay.
In the hotel room. So I know you guys won't be able to call this out, but it's a GP03. And it's a black painted GP03 that I use for the demo. There's a Russian tank, and then there's a German tank. My little notebook, my little oil paint pad, and I'm in the hotel room prepping for my seminar because I have to give like a 2-hour seminar. As you can tell, I talk a lot. So
no, you get out of here.
No,
oh my god, I haven't heard you stop yet. I had to force stop. I'm looking at my time here. Well, he's gotta run out of battery at some point.
I know. That's probably what that's.
So the next photos here. Are you still detailing while you're at the hotel?
Mm-hmm. So when I left for the trip, I was going to give a big seminar. It was promoted as such. One of the seminars. There's like 10 guest speakers throughout the weekend. It's a whole like 3-day event. And so, you fly over to Vienna, Austria, and then you get in a car and you go across the Hungarian border, which I've never experienced it. It is really transitioning into the Cold War era.
Oh,
Hungary
wow.
is still really left in the 1960s Cold War era. It was a time travel event. I've never experienced anything like it. It was amazing for starters. It wasn't a bad thing. It was just life at a certain point in time. And it kind of, as they broke into kind of being part of the West, like it all stopped being Russian a little bit, or Warsaw Pact, and then it turned into this. It's this. But the other thing is the language.
What do you mean by language? Like actual, like local
Hungarian
dialects?
language. Yeah, it's its own. Hungary, Finnish, and Hungary are 2 dialects that are like their own thing. So if you know German or Russian or French or Spanish, you can't speak Hungary or Finnish. They don't relate to Latin-based languages or even English. So a lot of them don't speak English. Typically, when you travel to, say, Sweden or Belgium or France or Italy, they all learn English in school. So you can still fumble your way through as an American like an idiot. You can still in Hungary, I could barely order a beer. It was really hard.
You have to point at your mug and go this.
Yeah, that's hand sign. That was it, man. It was. Can I get one? It was just that's what you're doing. So
quick question. I have a photo here of a fighter jet. Was that intentional? Like, what am I looking at here?
Yeah, so I threw that in there because what I want to talk about for a second is the power of social media. One of the benefits of social media in the scale model world, besides connecting everybody, besides showcasing your work and everything else, one of the powers of Instagram in particular is the reference photo guys that put up reference photos of whatever it is.
Right.
I threw up the Tomcat. I'm happy you kind of mentioned the Top Gun. This reminds me of the Mavericks jet. That was on Hulu the other day. I watched the whole thing again. I hadn't seen it like in 5 years.
Classic. Hello.
Oh God, it's so good.
Would you say that movie would take your breath away?
It holds up well. It holds up really well for being kitschy. For being.
Oh God, Tom Cruise at his finest, and he's still running. He's running. He has a motorcycle,
I'm
and
back.
just
I can't
action.
wait for Top Gun 2.
Same here. The F-18 looks dope. And sorry, like, totally
I think
side.
they're gonna handle it really well. I'm actually really excited for that movie coming out. I'm super excited for that one.
I was looking at the level grade for, I believe it's a Revell kit that I picked up for the Maverick. It's my first Revell kit, first airplane, first this is a first experience for me, and I'm super excited. I can't wait to do it.
Yeah.
But there's that skill level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it maxes out at
Revell
5.
loves putting that on their boxes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? So I looked at it, and I'm looking at the scale is the same. And
condescending.
But that's a different topic altogether, my friend. The Tomcat that we're looking at from the 1980s version of it is at skill level 4. And I'm looking at it. It's very intricate. It has a big wingspan, lots of weapons.
Right.
I look at.
Do you remember is it the 48 scale or 72nd scale? Do you remember?
48. The 48.
48. So it's gonna be a good size. That's gonna
Dude, I didn't know it was that big. So I'm like, I thought, when you're thinking high grade, you're like, oh, it's gonna be about this big. I can detail that. I popped the thing open.
It's big like a perfect grade almost. To be honest with you.
I don't know what I'm getting myself.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So that's skill level 4, and then right beside it is the new F-18, which they're gonna use for the new movie, and it still says Top Gun on it, and it's Maverick's plane. Skill level 5, and I'm looking at the box side by side. Number one, they're the same scale. I'm looking at the amount of pieces. I'm like, how is this different scale than the other? Like, how did they judge the scale system on that?
I don't like to talk about companies in this way, but I don't like skill 1 through 5. I don't, because it kind of puts you in this category. I'm like, well, like I don't like beginner and advanced. Personally, I think I like sports. You're a rookie and you're a veteran. Like you're a veteran because you've done it a lot. Well, I don't know what skill level 4. It's going to intimidate you. Like, what's going on? So I think one's just an older version. I think that kit in particular, it might be Academy might actually have done the original tooling. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. Revell's F-18 tooling might be their own. I don't think
that's why they jumped. They jumped the skill set level.
I think so. I think one's a Reeboks. In the military world, they rebox a lot of stuff. So like Tamiya will rebox Italeri, which is an Italian company, and they'll put their kit sprues in their box with a different cover.
Right.
So that's pretty common in that world. Like if say, I wanted to sell you, like a Tomcat, I think the Academy Tomcat is pretty good in 48 scale. So.
Awesome. Let's do a quick hello to everybody on social media. We haven't said hi in a while. I just want to make sure that everybody, the guys, thank you for no. This guy, man, you keep talking, man. I love that about you. Yeah. let's do a quick recap. Actually, from Facebook, Ryan Lau is joining us. He is GBWC champion of 2018, and we have
Zeku's Spy.
Exactly.
Oh, dude, that's so badass.
What he's saying is, sorry, I'm late,
right
guys.
Over here, I'm painted Ryan.
And what does it say? Yes, it was too true. Weathering that tells a story. It is something that places weathering to the next level. So he does agree with the weathering for you. Your points on that one. Over at YouTube, lots of people here. We have Neon Wave joining us, trying to see some of the newer names that have been popping. Gunpla, hello from hi everyone from Winnipeg. There's another question from Xiao here, and maybe we'll answer that after I go through some of these names here. We got some more Sandra. They're all just laughing about my accent for Nico. Simon Lamb, it's all about weathering. Mecha Painter, I cleaned it and found paint chip. Okay, my issue is when you would use oils over enamel, weathering washes. Yep, we face about that as well, especially.
You probably want to put an acrylic varnish in between. So if you're an enamel painter, that's your base colors, your base chemical brand is enamels.
Right.
You're probably going to want to just throw down a quick acrylic top coat above that, and then put your oils. That way, the thinner you use with the oils doesn't eat into the enamels. They tend to play in this. They're both solvent based, so solvent based stuff tends to eat each other alive. So one of the things it's a cornerstone of kind of traditional like military modeling is usually it's an acrylic base of some form,
right?
Whether that's an acrylic lacquer or like a Tamiya, which is Tamiya and Gunzi, you're acrylic lacquers, and so you technically tend to use a lacquer thinner with it,
right?
Even though you can use other thinners with it, they're very forgiving in that manner. But usually you put down an acrylic base coat because once it dries, like Vallejo, AK, Ammo, Mission models. Once that cures up and dries, it's a pretty solid shell. It's hard to mess that up with another chemical. In other words, like lacquer thinner won't like rip it off the model. So if you reverse that and you paint with an enamel first, because it's solvent based, putting the solvent thinner on top of it could cause it some damage. So technically put down an acrylic in between.
Wow, so the chemicals very much play well into what we do. So
here's huge.
Let's
I'm
circle
actually
back.
avoiding
Yeah.
the conversation because I know there's dudes out there going, "Get into it, Rinaldi. Come on, do it. Do
Go,
it." Like,
go,
no.
go on, do it. Just pull the plug. Another question.
I will
Yeah,
promote
go on,
mission
go on.
models. I think a lot of guys who haven't used mission models paints, I think they're the first acrylic I've used that really truly replicates what we do in the lacquer world in terms of airbrushing, the quality, the fineness, the ability to spray.
And how's
one
the
of the
color
first-
range on that? Is it like a full
It's
spectrum? Or
170 now, so they have every color on planet Earth almost. So it's
Okay.
they're fully loaded. Yeah, they have all the Gundam. And I've talked to both, like USA Gundam Store. I've talked to Mission Models about this, like, you know, in terms of, you know, starting to sell their through those channels. So you guys should check them out. Mission Models, they're a good company.
Mission
I
Models,
will
yeah.
give them a little love. Just
Nice.
a little love. The Sazabi and SM3 is Mission Models, so yeah.
Oh, are they? Okay, we're gonna get touch
Yeah.
base on the Sazabi, and we're really
Yeah.
cutting close. Like, I'm not cutting close, but we're gonna get there. I could see it, or I could smell the Sazabi.
Mhm. Coming,
It's so yummy.
coming.
One question before we get to that, I guess, to circle back with Xiao here. Another question: how can odorless thinner prevent the band-dye plastic from cracking?
It doesn't. Okay, so that's an old myth. I actually started my SM3 project with one of the topics that I wanted to hit was that old school conversation of thinners chewing away Bandai plastic. First off, number one, boys and girls, prime your models. Don't argue this point anymore. I'm over the conversation of, well, I don't need to prime, I do whatever. If you're gonna paint, you're gonna put any chemical on a plastic, prime the model, please. Just prime it. Just don't argue with me. The reason I say this now is I have never had a paint job go bad because I use primer. When I've not used primer and I've had a problem, 9 out of 10 times I've had a problem is because I've not primed my damn model. So it's cheap insurance. Your kits are $40, $50, $100. The can of primer is $5. It'll last 3 or 4 models. It's $1 a model for primer. Prime your models, kids. Don't argue with me. Grandpa tells you to prime the models. I'm telling you to prime the models. Primer is your protective layer, and so
Right.
it'll protect the joints, the poly caps, everything going inside of that. Some older Bandai plastic is a little brittle, but what I learned was once I primed everything, and then I painted it, and then you start doing what he was asking about with the weathering part of it. The second tier of this conversation is quantity. So and this you'll see this talked about in the books a lot, quantity of chemicals on the paintbrush. So when you have your paintbrush and liquid chemical is on that paintbrush, the quantity of it, and you flood that surface, and then that chemical solvent sits on that surface, it does damage. So
Right.
what I teach you in the books is a reduction. It's very much wax on, wax off, Daniel, son. It's pull the chemicals back.
Oh my
Get
god!
your control and get your precision in, and then it's in the books. It's all talked about in the books, kids. So it's all in there. Control and precision. Reduce how much liquid is on your brush, my friend, and you will see a big improvement and you won't see any cracked plastics. That's just kind of more of a myth.
Yeah, I've never had cracked practice. Cracked plastic.
That's what you think of. Yeah.
Oh my god! Speaking of crack practice, why don't we go back ahead to the arena? Let's take a look. Here, it's another sample, I guess, of some of the stuff that you took photos of in the city. But we're gonna fast forward to that because, like, we were looking at some of the.
get to the
I think they got the idea. I want to get to this
get
guy
your reference,
here.
guys. Take pictures, save reference. Follow reference people on the Instagram. I'm telling you right now, follow all the Instagram.
I didn't even know that existed until you brought that up, right?
I will put the link in an answer to the video later when this post on. Like when you post the post
Right.
thingy, I'll put a link for guys. There's a Russian guy. I forget the name. He takes pictures of all the space shuttle and SpaceX stuff going on right now out of Kennedy in Florida. He posts the most amazing up close photos of spacecraft. And why this is important is because so much of Gunpla story play is between space and atmosphere and the relationship of the space shuttle, in particular with the heat tiles and everything else.
Wow.
What happens to that? Like, that is the first one-to-one reference we have access to that will actually be replicated in the Gunpla, because it's actually what they're doing. You know,
Right.
thrusters, all the stuff. Like the guy, I will put the link for you. I apologize, I didn't give it to Ariel first, but we'll get that going.
I love surprises. This is great, guys. You guys are getting special treatment post the interview.
Like, when you get off this watching me chat for 8 hours, go to Instagram and just type in SpaceX in the thingy, in the search in the Instagram, and then look at the photos and look at like the boosters that have come back to planet Earth. Like, look at what happens to them. that's exactly what's going to happen to a mobile suit in space when it comes to the atmosphere.
Wow, and that's
So
like the re-entry realistic thing on that one.
I just went off. I was going off the deep. I was like, holy cow. So anyway, I'll put the link in when we're done.
Let's talk about the Sazabi. Obviously, let's do a quick intro. Why did you choose the Sazabi? Why did you choose the color? And how did it made it to the book? I think those are the top 3 questions for me.
For sure.
That I'm curious about.
So a couple of things, I think, as a professional, as a publisher, I wanted to touch on. I didn't want to jump into Gunpla world full-blown anime accuracy right away, because what happens is you get tripped up in the canon, you get tripped up in the lore, you get tripped up in the, well, it didn't have this, you get tripped up in that argument. I didn't want to deal with that, because what I wanted to really do is use SM03 in particular as a bridge between military style finishes that I've taught for years, and then kind of transitioning those techniques over to the mobile suits.
Right.
The Sazabi is just, that was more of a personal thing, because the technical aspects of Bandai's kit it just really was amazing. But it also there's a Germanic form language to Char's suits, the Zaku, the Goofs, the Sazabi. There's a Germanic World War II, the helmet, the way the helmet comes out. That's all really Japanese designers took a lot of influence from the German World War II flavor.
Right.
So I think it was a good transitional piece to use for the conversation purpose of discussing techniques and not getting tripped up with, well, Char's thing is red, etc. So I kind of made it kind of a quasi ground suit.
I was gonna say, because like what you did here is a bit of a twist, because like this, number one, this is not Char's color scheme. This is a completely different rebranded color of it. And I do agree that contrast allows your technique to shine through.
Right, and that's the point. Yeah, totally. I didn't want to get tripped up in making a red Char's, and I'll do that. Actually, I actually have stuff planned. There's a photo coming up that we'll talk about.
Nice.
There's anime accuracy coming from RSP, but like I said, and it's in the intro of the book. I talk about this point where I didn't want to, as a company, get tripped up in the conversation of, well, it's not the red Char. This isn't about Char. This is really about the technique conversation to teach moving forward.
Exactly, and you could apply it to any color, really. Like it's more of like
totally. I just
understanding the medium kind of deal.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
when you were selecting this as your base, obviously, like that was a very big influence of the German stuff from the Japan. What was there any other kit aside from this that you would have considered for the book? Like, is there anything remotely close to?
I went back and forth. So you guys have watched some of the other interviews I've done, especially I think Zach's a couple months ago. The Rick Dom's my boy. Rick Dom is my thing. It's my favorite suit. But again, I have plans for Rick and his crew. I didn't want to get tripped up getting so focused on like what I want to do with the DOMs and everything else. I felt this gives me the big grunt language I wanted. It's a beast of a kit, but it's also beautiful, like just straight up beautiful kit. It's also in the size I'm used to, 35th scale armor and 100. So it's 1-to-1 size-wise for me in brush strokes and airbrushing and the hairspray stuff. So it really made a lot of sense to me. And I had one too. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy something else. So let's do it.
Let's jump on to some of the details here, Michael. We're now at like picture number 6 or 7 now. I was just scanning through just to give everybody kind of a glimpse of all the photos.
And by the way, these are my phone snaps. So what I sent to Ariel was not stuff in the book. These are me taking snaps with my phone as I'm working on this, because I wanted to share some behind the scenes photos a little bit. This is me kind of editing the thing in my head as I'm like, okay, how does this look? What am I doing?
Right.
So on and so forth. So yeah.
Yeah, I was curious about that. I was like, hey, wait a minute. I was flipping through the book. I didn't see this.
The book. No. These are from my iPhone.
So some of the key techniques here obviously are discussed in the book. We're not going to go to reveal too much of the books, but like obviously the message is there. You have the visual aspect, you have the technique, you have the wording, the annotation for it. Like, when you were creating the book, was that always been in your mind that like when you're doing this painting, I need to make sure that I'm doing this at this particular area or this particular surface because I need to be able to explain it? Like, what are some of the thought process workflow when you were doing this project?
One of the reasons I pushed Gunpla later in my production process, in terms of the books have been planned out for a while. Like I have a master plan of kind of what I'm doing. I kind of sort of do maybe. But this is book 7 for me. So this is the 7th book I've done. So I'm pretty familiar with the way I need to do a process, do the steps, take the picture, write the text, get it on the page for you guys. Like this, by now I know what I think I know what I'm doing. I don't know. I might not. I could be crazy. But so what I wanted to do was, because this is my first time doing a joint on a bipedal design of a humanoid shape. You know, there's a shoulder joint, elbows, knees, crotch, like the whole. I build tanks, I build airplanes, I build tractors,
and they're stationary mainly.
Right? Yeah, it's a totally different mental thing. So that's why the Rick Dom, or the Dom Tropin, I should say, is the first test part of the book, because I needed to break out of military and vehicles into bipedal mobile suit design, you know, humanoid things.
Now, when you're doing that, do you look at other references or other artists when you're tackling a humanoid project? Yeah,
you have to. Because of my design background in the automotive world, being from Los Angeles and everything, that's also, you know, Hollywood, everything else. But the concept design, video game designer, like that whole world is also all over Instagram too, by the way. Like all the dudes that draw all the robots and soldiers for all the video games and stuff like that. Those are great things to look at, because those artists are doing what I do in 2D, you know, whether it's on the computer or not. So I did look at quite a bit of those, and it's kind of this really blends a lot of what I try to do. So. And
most of your techniques, you said, they're transferable from tanks. Were you more like trying to do the weather?
It's identical.
It is identical. It is like straight up
identical. There is straight up identical. Here, hold on one second. Let me grab this here.
Hey, we're gonna get a picture in real life.
Yeah, it's not gonna be exciting, everybody. So this is the magic brush.
Hang on. Stay right there. I'm gonna put it to the side by side real quick to give a bigger image.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So what are we looking at here, Michael?
So this brush is one of the I talk about, again. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a Lowell Cornell. It's an art brush, but it's a number 2. I use this brush for everything. Doesn't matter. I have like 50 of them, but I use this size. This is the size brush I use for every scale, every model, everything. And then the airbrush is the airbrush. So yes, to the paints are the paints. Everything I've ever done, it's all one-to-one translation. There is nothing I'm doing different with hairspray. There's nothing I'm doing different with the oils. And that's to hit that home for you guys. That's all I do. I'm a human holding a brush with chemicals on it. So the intimidation factor for you guys, don't get worked up about this. It's all practice. It's like kicking a ball in the soccer field. Just go kick the ball in practice, and then somebody's going to come along and will, you know, tweak your foot this way. Right. And then, you know, like a golf swing, it's the same thing. If I'm going to be a quarterback and throw the ball, same thing. Nice. There's nothing I do different. So, and that's what I wanted to really emphasize is what you see. I'm not doing anything for the scale. Now I'm attentive to the size of what I'm creating. You know,
I was going to say the scale is still important.
Yeah. The mark I make is important. And that's why I play in different scales, because if you work in like a 1/44 scale and you weather 1/44, when you get to your 1/100, your perfect grades, your marks are going to be smaller, and then end result's going to be even better. So that's another little pro tip. Do a couple little dudes first, and then do the big Jimmy, and then see what happens.
Because you get like more experience, like, you know, with the harder stuff first ahead of time. You put the work in and front load it, so that later on when you're doing a big scale, and I get that. I hear a lot of people, it's like, oh, when I transition to a bigger scale, it's such a lot easier. But like my brush is like, oh my god, I could just do one of this, and it's like, bam, it's there already.
Yeah. So that was that's really the process was practicing on the 1/44th Dom Tropin first, roll into the Sazabi for the main project of the book. Get those techniques down, and it's the same 2 techniques: it's hairspray chipping, followed by oil paint rendering. That's all I do. That's all I do now. I don't even. It's the easiest. And I'm not gonna lie to you, boys and girls. It's super fun.
Detailing is so much fun. I mean, I watch a lot of detailers. Like obviously when Nico posts his billion pictures in one shot.
Poor Nico.
I know, right?
He loves you, buddy. He loves you.
I know. I'm gonna buy him a beer tomorrow. It'll be fine.
You're gonna have to buy him a few.
When we're also looking at that, do you factor in angles? Do you factor in pre-shading? Do you factor in like light and all that stuff? Because I know you talked about the ground game where you have dust accumulation, you have all these weathered stuff.
There's that part of it, yeah. So it's a 20, 30 foot, 50 foot machine that walks around on a planet's surface, whether a moon, an asteroid, whatever. The accumulation, you know, gravity is relatively universal feature. So gravity always pulls down on everything. So if it's in the spaceship, if the mobile suit's in the actual spaceship and the spaceship has gravity, then all the fluids are going to go down with that whole thing. So you can apply gravity on Earth to all the general universal elements. It's kind of, you don't need to get super crazy with that weird, well, it's floating around, whatever. No, I mean, if they're going to do maintenance in a hangar, they're probably going to have gravity on the ship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But,
right, like magnets or something just to like weight them
yeah,
down.
all
kind
that
of
stuff.
deal.
So your fluids, your dust, everything's going to go in a kind of a general context of what you see in the real world by just looking at it. But as far as like technique-wise of the pre-shade, the post-shade,
right,
a lot of modeling conversation techniques. I have used them all, and I don't use them a lot anymore because they're a lot of work. And I found what happens is if I just paint the model and use my oil paint rendering, like the way I kind of talk about it,
right,
I can get every flavor of any kind of look I want to get out of that little thing right as I do it. And I find that it's a lot more efficient. It's a lot less airbrush heavy. Like all the pre-shading stuff that dudes love to do. I mean, it's like, again, this look,
it has its time and place and look, right? Like
Uncle Mike has airbrushed a lot. So I'm just going to tell you guys, I've airbrushed a lot. I'm done pre-shading stuff. I don't need to airbrush the model 5 times to get the color range
right
that I know I'm going to get in post. It's kind of the post-production, pre-production conversation. I know I can do it in post. It's kind of how I do it. And I think when you guys start to see and click and try and practice it, I think you'll see you can kind of.
But that's also different if you're doing
obviously
if you're doing a focused on book, digital printing, et cetera, light and artificial lighting and studio lighting will affect
zenithal
it.
lighting, color modulation, a lot of terms in the hobby. Yeah.
What have you seen? Is there any type of trend you see in regards to IPMS competitions or local competitions that you have attended in regards to the type of painting techniques that is emerging or has been consistent? Like what are your feel right now?
Well, it's definitely what we just talked about. I think I'm probably on the edge of kind of walking away from the pre-shade, post-shade thing. That's kind of taken hold in terms of the masses now,
right?
Like in the aircraft world, in the armor world, and even in the gunpla world, where you see certain primer colors and certain base coat colors and certain reasons why guys want to start, layering up their colors with the airbrush. And also the lighting, it's faded on the top moving down, or each panel's got its own fading and shading through the airbrushing and the whole thing. And these are becoming common now. And I think what we're seeing is the skill sets are rising, which is fine. Guys are getting good at that, or, model builders, I don't want to say guys, but model builders are getting really good at that. I've noticed purely just from, the two main Spanish companies, AK Interactive and Ammo, they're all started by Miguel Menez. The trend in the hobby as promoted and marketed through their companies has helped raise the game, the quality game, the end result. It's relatively global. It's percolated in the gunpla. And then as we see, GBWC has kind of pushed forward the high quality finishes, the high quality painting in the gunpla world. That's percolated out, and we see it all over the internet now. I mean, social media with Twitter and Instagram, and
the reach is just like almost instantaneous. Yeah, the
reach is amazing. Yeah. And you can find almost anybody doing anything somewhere, somehow, in whatever country, and that's kind of been the bigger technique. Why it's not so much something specific has grabbed hold. It's just kind of the average skill set has really elevated as the sharing of the information gets spread out everywhere. So that's kind of what I see anyway. So
nice.
As far as what I do and like what I want to do and don't do in terms of painting and weathering, I try to just, here's what I do, guys. Here's how I do it. You do what you want. I don't really care. Go for it.
That's true. We have a photo here right now of the cover of SN03. What can you tell me? Like, what is the feeling like when you first published and first selling of the book as obviously as an independent entrepreneur? Like, how did these books affect you? Right?
Your nerves. You're always nervous. I mean, that's the business side of it. It was this ties into the first time I talked to Adam at USA Gundam Store. Mm-hmm. It was, hi Adam, I'm Michael Rinaldi Studio Press. I've done a number of books in scale modeling. Here's our latest, and it's in Gundam. We would like you to sell it. And so I send him a sample, and he takes a look at it, and he gives me a call, and then we do a deal. And so usually it goes pretty well. I mean, the products are fairly well received. I'm happy about that. That means I'm doing a pretty good job. Adam's been a huge supporter, and especially in the gunpla conversation. But there is I have to, this is one hat, and I have a salesman's hat, and I've got to put the salesman hat on, and I got to talk to everybody in every country. I'm a one-man show. If you guys don't know, I do everything. So that means sales, that means social media, and I have to talk to all these dealers and distributors, and some are good, some don't go well, some I've had falling outs with, some I've had great success with. So experienced the full spectrum of the hobby in terms of
not just
nerves
creating, but like also like the business side.
Making the models is easy. It's everything. Shipping. Oh man, getting something put on a boat from one country and then sea freight over surface freight. I've experienced every little aspect of, and that's part of being an entrepreneur. It's part of being a small business guy. And I don't even know if I get nervous anymore. I'm just like, okay, it's just 10,000
so used to it now, kind of. Yeah.
Like, okay.
So just a couple photos here, guys. These are some of the clips from the book. There is there's some sections here where
these were the
like
promos.
before...
The black ones are the promos. Yeah, those were the actual marketing promo stuff I put together that showcases the layouts. And this was kind of like the first teasers on the internet when I was putting up like, here's the layout of the construction process.
Right.
And again, compared it to the military side, we don't build it and then unbuild it and then paint it again. Like we don't do that. So that was something and all that kind of stuff to learn that.
And on the books, I got a couple of clips here, and these are some of the details that we will see on the book, obviously. So you have the pre-construction. You're talking about
yeah, these are page layouts. This is from the book. Yeah, that's in the book. Yeah,
exactly. And the next one here is like again, I want to emphasize that the book is filled with information, and it's very rare to get that with magazine samples, right? So
here's a little tip. Yeah. Here's a little thing. I can tell when someone hasn't read the book, by the way. I know, like if I have a conversation and they have the book, I can tell when that person hasn't actually read the book. So Uncle Mike knows.
And he's going to be testing you. There's a quiz at the end of the show, guys.
There's a quiz.
Oh, he's going to send you guys all personal letters. They're going to be like, okay, question number 1. What page did I talk about where you are nitpicking a little bit of a needle thing? Awesome. Is there anything else you want to talk about the book that is unique to SM for this particular?
And it's unique to SM, and well, it's also in the tank art books. And I handle the 2 series a little bit differently. So I guess another element to the book was when I have published material I buy from other companies, and then I put the book on the shelf, and maybe a year later I come back and I'm looking for something, right? You know how they like, I want that article, I want to find. So in the books, I put a guide that shows you this step was on this page of the book. So if you go to the spread, it'll tell you where to find this in the book really quickly. And it's in the tank art books after each chapter. So each chapter has its own, I call it the
index kind of thing. Wow.
It's a little index at the end of every book SM books are at the end of the book, and then the tank art books are at the end of every chapter. So
wow, that is so informative. Like that's a next level of detail on this. I mean, we're talking to a guy that's like attention to detail. It just also transcends to creating books.
Like this one here, it tells me on page 4 is when I do the interior of the. So if I want to remember what I went, and I just go back to page 4 and boom, there it is. And so that's kind of, I want the books to be tools more than anything else. They're tools for the bench.
Nice.
The size is also, when it's on the bench, it doesn't take up a lot of space. Yeah. The tank art books were shorter, so that they don't take up a lot of volume on the workbench. So when you have them open, that whole thing. Yeah, I tried to really think as a model builder with this one.
I was gonna say, because like this is something like I was carrying this around, or it was in my bag, like my small bag that I carried. Like I was in the subway and I was flipping through it, and it's like I wanted to take some like samples and like read them out, but like, you know what? I don't want to spoil the book, guys. This is filled with so much information. I got to the part here where you were talking about this part here at the DOMS deck, and we were talking about the details on that. What I didn't know is like I was reading through this, and it's like hairspray technique application. First, number 1, you need a hairspray. Well, it doesn't go like that. He goes on the thought process, and then application, and then it just kind of, it's good transition between one step to another. And I don't even see it as a step. It's more like you're talking to someone via book text.
When I sat down, that's great, Ariel, because when I sat down originally in 2012, I wanted to kind of break from formal English and I wanted it to be like 2 model builders at a bar having a conversation about what it was. That's what I wanted to capture, because like when you talk about GBW, the social aspect of going to the shows, and when you talk to your buddies and when you talk to the fellow competitors, or maybe you're meeting them for the first time and you're asking them about what they did, I want that relationship to come through in the words and how I talk to you guys, so that you kind of get that sense that I'm just sitting here chatting with you, and it's, well, why did you pick this aerosol? Why? So the why becomes
the conversation pretty much as well.
It's in the books, yeah. And you'll see when you flip that open, you'll see like the gray text is one conversation. The black text is another series of conversations. So
no, the book really translates well. It's something I thoroughly enjoy. I'm not a big book reader. Even magazine, I'll look at it. It's like, oh yeah, I could do that, or like I don't get it and just toss it away.
I still flip through them and toss them. I'm like, all right.
And I'm looking
awesome,
at this,
but like, what do I do with it? Yeah,
and I'm not trying to oversell this, guys. Obviously, I have a lot of books, but they're all like picture books and magazines and references. For a reference book, and I, like I said, why kicking myself now and missing out on this great book. Remembering that now, if I picked this book up like years ago when it actually came out, that actually might have helped my game on my project. So again, this is something I would recommend. Give it a read through if you guys can get your hands on it. USA Gundam Store is also selling it now. That being said, we're gonna do a quick break, Michael and everyone there. But let's say hi to everyone as well, just so that we get caught up on this. So we ended off around Xiao. I find chipping one the hardest effects to get right now, and that's from Nico. And they were talking about some of the reference photos, like this modeling book or modeling work, right? Love the frame of mind that is all storytelling, and that's what a lot of the dioramas. Even like you don't even need a correct me if I'm wrong. Do you need a diorama to tell a story?
I'm a single. Yeah, no. I try to emphasize. It doesn't matter if you're making vignettes, dioramas, or just standalone statues. It's all the same. The story of the vehicle or the model, the subject, whatever it is, it's in the finish of the subject. Whether you're painting a scale soldier figure in a uniform, or it's a gunpla, or it's a tank, the story of the life of that, whatever it is in the finish itself. You got to do that anyway. So whether you put it on a base with other little jimmy rigs to tell another story, the life of that has to be there to begin with. You have to do this to start with anyway. So
that is very, very true. Okay, we'll do a quick commercial right now. We will be back with Michael Rinaldi, and we're going to look at some of his gunpla?
2020. What happened in COVID?
We'll be right back. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ariel from Mecha. I just want to let you guys know about all my other social media outlets. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, at facebook.com/AOMecha, on YouTube, youtube.com/AOMecha, on Instagram, instagram.com/AO_Mecha, on Twitter, at AO_Mecha, and on Discord, fairly new. That one is AO_Mecha, #3414. Anyways, hope to hear from you guys. Through any of those platforms, feel free to DM me or PM me, as well as emailing me. My email is aomecha.info@gmail.com. Just want to let you guys know that this episode is brought to you by USA Gundam Store. Please check them out, www.usagundamstore.com, and save on your purchases when you use my discount code AOMecha10. All right, let's get back to the show and see what's going on there. All right, welcome back, guys. For those of you guys tuning in, we are joined tonight by Michael Rinaldi, amazing author, artist extraordinaire, model making, photographer. I actually have a question before we get to the rest of your gunpla here. Like, who took your photos for your books? Did you take them, or did you? No, get out of here. What?
Everything you see, everything you handle when you. I'm not joking, guys. I'm a one-man show. I don't print the books. There's a printer I pay for.
Right.
And I don't ship as much, even though most of the time when you receive a package, I'm the one that's mailed it. So what I did was the internet web forums in 2005, 6, 7, the early days, communicating via photos was the main thing. And so just because obviously I'm an obsessive perfectionist, that whole thing, I started to learn about photography on the back end of how to take a good model photo, and I like the white crisp background whole thing idea. Well, how do you do that? How do you get there? And I'm good at Photoshop, the basic, not Photoshop drawing and stuff, even though I've done a lot of that, but just using Photoshop as a program for editing photos. And how do you get a white background? How do you get a pure white background? Like, how do you do that? That whole thing. So I spent some time and I really learned, and I studied cameras, DSLRs and lenses. In one of the Q&As, if you download the Q&A off the website, there's a photography Q&A where we just talk about lighting, model photography, scale model photography, etc. Yeah.
Guys, check it out.
A lot of time in that.
What's the website again that they could go to?
RinaldiStudioPress.com.
There you guys go. Extra reference, extra tools, maybe more information,
in
guys.
In the menu up top, it says PDFs, and just click that, and then there's all the conversations, and there's you can download the whole thing or whatever you want. Doesn't matter. They're all free. There's a code for free. They're like $1, but you put the code in and it makes them free.
Toss your coin to the Witcher, guys.
Right.
All right, let's get back. Now with lockdown, we have a slew of. I got a slew of photos. You've been busy.
Yeah.
You've been working on some gunpla. Not all of these are painted, obviously, but these are what I'm assuming is your future
I don't
projects.
think any of them are painted. I haven't painted any of these yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna go through some of these and obviously talk a little bit about gunpla as well. Like so.
Okay. Yeah.
These ones, obviously, you have a big appreciation for the DOMs. How many DOMs would you say you have collected now?
I have them all. No, I have them all. They're all done. They're all snapped up. They're all good. All my DOMs. I've got resin conversion DOMs. I've got master grade DOMs. I got all the HTUC DOMs. I got test types, prototypes, origins. We do need new DOMs. I will say to Bandai, if you're listening, we do need new rig tie. Everybody says, well, the master grade's pretty good. Yeah, it is pretty good. But when the Dynamaze comes out, or Curious comes out, or the Luna Warrior comes out, and it's a phenomenal kit, and the DOM's sitting there on the side, all sad and lonely.
Right.
MGEX comes out. Unicorn gets kit number 50. Poor Rick Dom.
Do you happen to have the Fast and Furious version?
No, I don't.
Dom is. I was making a funny.
Oh, I got you. You got me enough. You know when you put Dom in the search and eBay window, you get all these little Dom statues from the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. Then we have a couple of Gundams here.
Jokes aside.
I gotta slide a little bit of fun in there. Lots of high grades. A lot of these are mixed bag though. You have high grades. You have some master grade.
I do have to be efficient for the book production. Master grades, the larger the model gets, the slower I become, in terms of producing the output.
Right.
So the story goes basically, at the end of 2019, I started to finally solve my 2018-2019 supplier issue. And then Tank Art 3 that you have there landed February and March of 2020. In fact, It landed Thursday, the weekend before COVID hit, globally, at least as far in the US is concerned.
Yeah.
We knew it was coming. We've been hearing the chatter. I have friends in Malaysia and China that were, warning me that it's coming. And so the book actually arrived on the boat at my location that Thursday. And then, so I spent the first week getting the book kind of shipped and prepped and getting it going and putting it in the system. And then for the first time in about 2 years straight, I could really sit down and put a lot of time on the workbench on the building models. And I dedicated the future coming books past what you see on the website is what's coming next.
Right.
And what I'm working on past that. And it's going to be heavy gunpla. It's going to be heavy into this. I started snapping up stuff. And this is when I've learned. So SMO3, at that period of my life, I knew a little bit about Bandai, what you guys deal with on the regular. And I know Zach Aurelius, another USA Gundam Store contributor, and I know, I know a little bit at that moment in time. And then fast forward till now. Well, now I'm 150 kits in. I built about 150 kits from March 2020 till last night.
Holy cow, you're a machine.
Yeah, and it's all snapping. It's all just, there's no painting involved yet, so that it's a little bit of a lie. It's just, that's why I say snap.
Real question, do you snap build when I snap build?
No, you know what? That's a lie. No, because you were doing full armor the other night, and I was finishing up my TR5 Kaplant Tyru Advanced Zeta kit.
Nice.
So yes, I had you on the background, by the way, but it wasn't live. I'd watched you later that night.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, no, that's great to hear, man. Speaking of building stuff, we have a picture here of the Evangelion, but more so with Gun Primer. Gun Primer is now a partner with AO Mecha, and I'm gonna do a quick drop here,
guys. I threw that in there for you.
Check it out, gunprimer.com. What looks like here you're using the gate remover set. We had a quick conversation about that, guys. Gunprimer.com or USAGundamStore.com. You could use my discount code for that.
Cannot lie.
What are some of first impressions?
My game is amazing.
Yeah, what are some of first impressions of using the tools?
I've been doing sandpaper and sanding sticks for 20 years. X-Acto knives in Tamiya level nippers, and then I have played with God hand nippers before. I broke both of my God hand nipper sets, unfortunately. They had to use a Britzer metal. It does snap sometimes under pressure. USA Gundam Store has done the 1.0s, which I bought, and then I bought the 2.0s right when Adam announced them. So I ran and I bought mine. And then the same week, my Gun Primer order, because I found them on Instagram on my own, by the way, boys and girls. That's why Instagram's awesome. So I found out about Gun Primer, and the glass file, the razor showed up, and I looked at their instructions, the beautiful packaging. I respect that. They go through that effort, perfectionists. I love what they do. But with the 2.0 nippers and the razor, I'm on GBWC. Here I come. No more nibs. No more nothing.
Oh, that's an open
no more
challenge.
Right? I'm coming for you. No. But that's what I'm saying is like, it's so, dude, it's beautiful.
Nice.
Great stuff, guys.
And
If
my
you don't have one,
unboxing
get one.
videos for these guys and use will be coming in the next while. Watch out for that. You can visit on youtube.com/AOMecha. We're going to continue on with the rest of the stuff you snapped. You have the RG Eva. Is this your first RG that you worked on?
Technically, yes. I think it was the first. No, it wasn't because Johnny Ridden's Zaku Thunderbolt or Zaku High Mobility.
Yeah.
Yes. Was and that little delicate grenade taught me about RG. But the Eva, I've also got 01 and I've got 00 and 01 done, so I don't have the photo, but I did finish up. I snapped 00 up the other day, so
nice.
I have both of them.
What I'm going to do next, I'm just going to go through some of the photos. We're going to land towards your desk. I think I have a couple of questions here, and we'll do a couple of questions, guys, online. So prep them up. Prep your questions right now. We're just going to go through some of the kits that Michael has built in the last while. Very cool stuff. And obviously, have you been watching?
And these are just quick phone snaps. These are me just messing around with my iPhone. None of this is serious photos, by the way. This is just my workbench, my desk, behind the scenes. That's what this is. Just all snap, no paint. But everything is okay. I did want to say another tip from Uncle Mike in the pro tip world. If you're going to paint, if your plan is to paint, I recommend that when you remove the parts from the sprues and you get the nubs done, sand the part when you snap it up at the first, because what happens, this is why. Again, the how and the why. The reason is if you snap it and you don't sand it, but you want to paint it later, you have to unassemble it and sand it at that point in time.
Right.
Usually what happens in the dude mindset, now most of the girls probably don't care because you're a little bit organizing here, but in the dude mindset, we put it off because, oh man, bro, I don't want to sand that now. Like, dude, I don't want to sand.
I'm guilty. I'm super guilty of that.
I thought about this for you because you do assemble live on camera, so that's a little bit different. But for those dudes out there that are going to paint, sand the first snap you do so that when you disassemble to prep for painting when you're ready, the sanding's done. And you just go right into it, and it's a much more efficient. You're happy. You're excited about it, and that excitement, mental game, it's a big part of this hobby. So,
wow, that's very true.
Shelf clean. Yeah, I really think about that because I'm like, well, if I sand it now, I don't like sand. Don't get me wrong, I hate sanding, but get it done, get it out of the way, and then when you're ready to paint, it's already done. So they're all prepped for sanding. Everything you see.
Do you also glue or like do any type of cement work?
No, only in the Bandai conversation to glue only if it's something that is literally falling apart. Like it's an old because I got a lot of old kits too. Vintage, age-wise, they're made in 1999 or early 2000. Like some of them just don't. They need some glue. Most of them, no, not this. Nothing's really glued. So. And
when they're applying for paint, like obviously you're sanding down a lot of not just the nub marks. Are you also preparing the surfaces when you meant sanding, like actually get the grit of that mat so that the primer could stick well onto it, right?
If I had to paint any of these tomorrow, I could. No big deal. They're ready to go. Yeah, they're all the way to like 1,000 grit, I think, and I use these guys, the new ELPHNT. I think they're also Korean. Phenomenal sanding. I think they're from the medical profession. I think they're not a scale model hobby company. So
hey, whatever tools work, right? Like that's where we're at.
There you go. That the photos for Ryan. I think the Sentinel. There you go, Ryan.
Nice. Oh, that was for Ryan. All right.
that's his kit unpainted. That's what the Universal, the Zeku's Vai looks like unpainted, the blue one.
What did you think about the Messer kit, by the way? It's a bigger bad boy, right?
So, to the conversation of Bandai, and I've had this with Zach too as well. There's a couple of things: the Messer, G40, Beyond Global, and then entry grade.
Right.
A lot of these are grandpas because of the 40th anniversary. I understand it, but the technology we're talking about, like what you see in the Messer, not anything to do with the subject, but just the technology, and then what you see Bandai doing on these other relatable kits.
Right.
Personally, I think Bandai has tapped into what I think will be the future of like how these all go together for us. And I was just really interested in the engineering of these things more than just, I love the Messer for itself, its own thing, because it's just a beast. But the engineering of it was something I really liked. That's what I wanted to see.
Nice.
So that's why I grabbed that.
I completely agree with that. And also when I built the Messer recently as well as the
yours the other day. Yeah, mine's about a week ago. So
because it just came out.
Mine came from USA Gundam. So whenever Whenever they
ship
showed
it
up
out.
is when
Yeah.
I get my stuff from them. So whenever they show up is when I put my orders in.
And
I try to do my it's so funny because you should see me putting my pre-orders in and like trying to like pay for a group of delivery, hoping that they all, because I know when they're coming from the boat, you know, when they're going to show up, well, if this group of kids coming in. So
do you wait like a little boy at your door going like, come on, there's going to be a package coming?
No, my apartment has like, so down, I'm on the 6th floor. So in our little mail room, we have like what we call the Amazon lockers. And it's like a little terminal that the delivery people put it's a metal locker and it gives you a code. It texts your phone.
Oh, okay.
Delivery. So you get like this phone delivery and you're like, ah.
That is some fancy apartment. Are you like, what is this, the future? Do you live in the Jetsons?
It is a little bit. I am in the, you're in the future 3 hours, but I'm technically in the future, but yeah.
That is also
There's
true.
some SD stuff. I don't restrict my enjoyment to just any scale. There's SD stuff here.
Right.
The Sazabi, you should go back to the Sazabi if you can real quick, the red one.
Sure.
Real quick. That's a third-party kit. We don't talk about much anymore, but
yeah, I'm on the Sazabi right now.
So the conversation with that's Go models. Go-Go models. That's I think the Chinese brand Go-Go model that was around for a minute. That's their HG Sazabi, but it's a Sazabi Evo. So it's not the same Veracast styling. So that was one of those where I'd been hunting on eBay for a long time for one of these, and I finally.
And this is a
one.
resin kit or conversion?
No, it's plastic, but it's a Chinese kit, and they it's interesting when you do a Gundam a mobile suit that isn't a Bandai kit.
Yeah.
It's quite similar, but it's also very, very different. So
they're same, but different.
Yeah,
but
right?
still same.
Yeah, no, it's kind of you're doing the same thing, but like this is different. But like like the ankles don't move side to side, so there's no like ankle pivot. When the leg's out and the ankles like it's like.
Real question though, Michael. What is that? Okay, here's another thing. I'm totally gonna go off topic, but I think I just want to get your perspective on things.
Oh yeah.
There's big taboo about third party and bootlegs, and we try not to touch back to that subject. Stuff. Is it subjective that after it's painted, it doesn't matter where it came from? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know who says that. That's kind of like that's a little bit of that's like a cover up. Like, what are you talking about, bro?
Right?
It's still a third party kit. Like, what are you talking about?
No, yeah. But like, if it's painted though, it's become artwork and it's become a piece now.
Right. No, I this is the thing. Intellectual property rights is a huge conversation in general. Obviously, and in the science fiction world of Star Wars, Gundam, the people that own the rights to these things, like Advances Zetas, Dengeki Hobbies, but it's not Bandai's, but they got a relationship. And then Go-Go Model was around for a minute. The reason they were around for a minute because Bandai said, no, dude, you're not doing these anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to play by the level playing field, then play by the level playing field. If the market allows for third-party kits to sneak in, it's tough because, well, do we be the net nanny? Do we police every little thing that comes in? But I respect Bandai owns this. They've put millions and millions of dollars in investment into that product line, and that's their intellectual property. They own them. So unless you buy it out, so I respect the fact. It's confusing because the resin world kind of gets a pass.
Mm-hmm. Right.
For us, it's great because we have access to these really cool things, and it's like, well, do I want to build this or do you want to play by the rules? But I don't really know. Do I want to take a side? No, because I want to build that stuff too.
That's
I'll be honest with
you.
Some of the resin stuff we get it's like incredible. And this thing here, I got it because I wanted
it looks
to
cool.
see.
I think it too. I didn't even know this existed. That's how cool it is.
Yeah, that's the most expensive high grade I got. I'll tell you that much. But it's an older kit. It's well done. I like the flavor of the animated style that it's thinner, leaner, taller Sazabi. Because I want to put it next to another Sazabi in a book later on as a Shars thing and go, well, here's the
comparison to it. Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to defer. Bandai came in and said, no, we're not. You can't do this anymore. You'd have to follow the rules. Right now, it's kind of ambiguous. The rules are a little bit. Everybody's got a slightly different interpretation. I know, like Macross in the United States, it's owned by an intellectual property company that owns that name for Macross Robotech. So Bandai can't, you can't bring these in, and that's respected. So it's a little bit of a tough one. But if you paint it up and say, well, it's now art, you've still bought the kit that was quote unquote illegal. So I mean, you can't deny that part of it. You just gotta own it. You know what I mean? You're better off telling the truth. Don't bullshit people because we all know what it is.
There we go. See, that's some wise words on that one. Like, it is what it is, and
just
people know it.
I mean, be honest. Like, hey, I bought a third-party kit. It's like you be honest about what it is. if it's going to conflict the conflict of interest to say you're promoting Bandai and the whole thing, like that you sell Bandai.
And just get the Bandai kit and sponsor though. Lots of kits here, by the way. Like you said, you built about 150 kits now. It's how many more?
It was 135 a couple weeks ago, so it's about 150. I do about one every 2 days.
Do you have any favorite kits yet? Okay, minus the Dom. We know the Dom is your favorite.
Oh yeah, no, that's just my favorite mobile suit. Their kits actually suck. I mean, the prototype Origin one is pretty solid. The old high grades are kind of cheesy, but let's see. In the spectrum of kits that I've shown here, 3.0 Grandpa. Great kit. I know there's a little bit of thing, but that was my first real dive into the hardcore newer master grades, and then the Gym Sniper 2, as you guys know, is phenomenal. There is the Band Presto DOMs in there, which we talked. The dude, the little guy in the intro video, that's a Band Presto, guys. Some of the, let's see, so I did some RE100s. So I got to dance in the RE100 conversation, and I see what's wrong with them that everybody complains about. The Yag Doga in particular, you immediately see what's wrong with it, but you love it because it is a beautiful shame it's not a master grade. Yeah.
So Michael, we have a photo here with all your kits. This is your workstation. Can you just walk us through what your workstation is like? This is where you're sitting right now. I'm assuming you're on that black desk, right?
I'm at the gray desk. Yeah, I'm at on the right. The chair in the photo is actually where the workbench, the white desk. So the desk is white because the paper is going to be white and the background is going to be white. So it made a lot of sense to make the model bench white because it's a lot easier for me to photograph the work on the white desk and the white background. So that's actually why the desk is white. But yeah, so what I've done here is this is my little dude. That photo was Friday afternoon right there, and that's just one wall of kits. There's shelves behind me. The other photo of the shelf, that's the Advanced Zeta shelf. There's a P Bandai conversations going on, but this shelf here is, kind of colored. It's super OCD. Look at this. The reds are all together.
I was going to say, you have them color coded, very nice design. So is this where also you paint, or is it a different station altogether?
Everything. So you can see the compressor to the lower right of the chair.
I see it now. Yep.
That's a silent compressor. If you guys are serious about airbrushing and you want to take it to next level airbrushing, definitely buy a compressor that has an air tank. So what it does is it fills the air tank up for about 30 seconds. It shuts off. And then when you spray, it goes and there's no compressor noise. So if you live indoors or an apartment or shared space, they're beautiful. They're a little bit more expensive, but my last one lasted 10 years, and this is the second compressor I've ever owned as a professional. So they're worth the money. They're great tools.
Investment.
The white cabinets to the left are all the tools, and then the cabinets on the wall are like just the quick reach tools, and then there's the paint rack right in front of me.
That's an impressive setup here. Very minimalistic in approach. Very West Coast.
That's the light I use. Yeah, the lamp. Everything's minimalist. I've you know why? Because what happens is when you have to produce this, when you get into hardcore production of step by step, photo by photo, all the superfluous crap goes out. I used to have a photo booth. Put the model in the photo booth, take a photo. F off. Dude, it's so much work. The light I use on the desk is the light I shoot with. It's on the desk. I put a piece of white paper on the desk when I work for actual book production. And the camera you can see the tripod under the black desk. The camera's on that. I pull it out. So when I work, it's over my shoulder. I snap a picture. I do a 2-second delay. I hold my hand real steady. I try not to shake like an old man. And then I move on and I take the next one. And I just do that. And that's how the books are made, guys. I don't mess around at all. When I get into it, that is
the magic of his desk. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go back to the side by side.
Everything happens right there, and the computer is the layout. So that's it. It's all right there.
But very efficient. I love seeing people's workstation just because it gives you a little bit more perspective of the people you're talking to and you're working with. Thank you for sharing that.
I'm OCD to a T, dude. It's brutal. It's brutal.
Why don't we go
coordinated.
Do a little bit of questions? We're approaching towards the end of the show. We're approaching our 2-hour mark. Can you believe we've been talking for 2 hours? I could go on.
I believe it.
But I don't know
how you've been doing it. They're whatever. They're okay, he's still going. They went to dinner. Your dudes went to dinner. They came back. I'm still talking.
Yeah. I was going to say, dude, I would love to hang out in person when all this is over. Maybe when I come visit in the West Coast, I'll try to stop by.
I do have to come back to Canada. I have a ton of military Canadian friends. I have to visit Montreal. I'm West Coast, so there is the Vancouver conversation, and then you guys are over here, and et cetera. But
let's make that happen. It's a pleasure talking to you tonight, and hopefully everybody that's been watching got a little bit more perspective of Michael Rinaldi, his work, his passion, his projects. So why don't we do a couple of questions and answers? I have a couple already in set.
Fire away.
If you guys are on the chat, if you guys have any questions, fired them up. So
my eyes are going bad.
No. They're still talking. They're still listening to us, which is cool. So a couple of questions off the bat. If you could do some quick answers on that one. With your success of the books and the book lines, SM and the Tank Art, are we going to be seeing new projects, new books, new series?
Yeah. So the big question. So like I've talked a little bit about supplier issues. So while I've been snapping up model Bandai kits, when I'm not snapping up a kit, I've been on the phone and we've built. I kind of, again, to the sports now. This one's a little bit different. I'm a huge Formula One fan. Those of you out there that like car racing, huge Formula One fan. I've been watching for most of my adult life. What Williams Formula One team has kind of gone through is what I kind of feel like I'm going through. Like I know I can win a race, but I don't have the finances, I don't have the support, I don't have the network behind the scenes. So I spent all summer doing that as a businessman, which is a new thing, like going for actual money.
Right.
We put together a new team. We have new printers in Europe. We have a new shipper. We have new financial backers behind us right now. September is our first print run of the new stuff that's listed on the website, SM4, 5, and 6. Those are mostly military stuff. There will be aircraft. There will be books on jets. There will be books on, most general subjects coming down.
Right.
And I would say 50% of the new books coming probably towards the end of this year. And then most of it will be 2021 because we're already in September.
Right.
So October, November, Christmas is going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah, I already saw Christmas ornaments being sold already.
Yeah, no, it's... So you're going to see releases of what's on this website now. And then most of the new, like for Gunpla, for aircraft, for civilian, like construction, cars, trucks, trains.
Do you see yourself doing people as well, like figures?
No. Okay. So I suck at people. I try. I'm okay. I don't suck. But I mean, I'm not a dude that you want to watch paint figures. There's a million really good figure painters out there, whether it's tabletop gaming or whether they're, scale historical miniatures. I'm a judge at a show, World Model Expo coming up. It was canceled. Obviously, COVID's canceled everything. But for 2021, it's kind of the Olympics of everything but Gunpla. And even though I do think some Gunpla does show up,
right?
All the military guys, all the sci-fi, all the figures, they're going to show up for the show. It's in Holland, in Eindhoven, Holland, in 2021, called World Model Expo.
Okay.
I was invited to be a judge for it. Most of those dudes over there I know personally. They're good friends. When you see the miniature figure painters like up close, get ready to get your nuts blown out because it's insane. It's effing like I know how good I understand where I fit in the big. Like I'm not an idiot, but when you see these little figures painted and even the little tiny ones or even some larger, get out of it.
Awesome.
Me, no. I will probably have like Joe Smith figure painter like SM10, and he'll have his own book.
Right.
And it'll be on his thing, and that's the better direction.
I'm just gonna float this around here. I know a guy named Simon Lamb. He paints stuff. Just saying.
There's a couple people.
See how I just
There's a couple dudes. There's a couple dudes out there for sure. And that's I talked to Zach about that a little bit, where that conversation was he asked about that. I said, there's a lot of people out there that when I grow and with the support that I've got, USA Gundam Store support from the US. That should play out where we should see the results in the next season in 2021 for RSP. Right now we're catching up. Right now we're kind of backlogged. So I'm hoping, come December, this conversation is really like, hey, here it comes. I won't give any dates yet, but I will tell you that there's a load of Gundams. You see a whole shelf of Hazels right there.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that for sure.
There's Advanced Advanced Zeta. Yeah, there's. I'm an Origins guy. You 00 kids.
The Wing Boys and the Seed Boys.
Maybe.
Question.
I have some Seed. I have some Seed Destiny. I have from what the only what I don't have is I don't have F90. So there's no F90 here.
Okay.
I'm looking up on my shelf right now. But it's mostly going to be a lot of. You'll see a fair amount of Origins. You'll see a lot of Advanced Zeta. There's Sentinel. Tons of Sentinel stuff.
I saw a couple of Age as well there. It's a couple of SDs.
Yeah, there's a couple of. Yeah, I love the Titus, dude. Super underrated kit.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite from the variation from that. Quick question again, just following through the rest of these guys here. For your tools, what would you say is your top 3 tools that you would recommend, or like what you use anyways? Like your top 3 tools you would use. He's reaching out the stuff.
That's it, man.
What are we looking at here? That is the nipper.
Exacto knife.
Yeah.
The Exacto knife is old as me. These are the USA Gundam Store 2.0 nippers, and then
Nice.
and then your razor.
Wow.
So those are the top three. I can't do anything without them now. And then I follow up sand with I have all the infinity. That's never
Infinity, yeah.
That's it. And then best plastic glue in the market.
Nice.
And then I use you know what I bought are the carbon fiber, the little carbon fiber strips that you attach the sanding stuff to.
It's
These
light,
little carbon
yeah.
fiber things. Yeah, they don't bend. You know,
Yeah.
I've got the MadWorks plastic ones that you adhere the sanding paper to. These have a little bit of flex to them, they're good.
Nice.
But the carbon fiber ones, I think these are Galaxy tools. They don't, I mean, you can almost not bend that. So if you need a really good, accurate sander, this is all on my bench in the photo. This is always here, guys. I don't ever touch this. And then the little roll of Tamiya tape.
Nice.
always
That's
comes in useful.
masking and all that stuff, eh?
Alexa handles my music over there. No,
Nice.
I'm not talking to you, girl. Calm down. She
Um,
lights up like a medium.
For a last question here for the night, though, Michael. For those who
And I'm on, by the way, airbrushes, I'm
yeah.
Iwata. I use Iwatas.
the Nawada guy. I would have thought you were a Pash. Wow.
I started with Pash, yeah. I've used Badger, Pash, everything. I've circled all the way. I have hardest thing back to everything. I circled. I'm a Iwata guy.
Iwata, there you go.
And to me, I have a Tamiya airbrush, which is basically an Iwata clone. So it's those two.
I have Iwatas, but I've switched to Pash. I'm doing now my circle, and I'll probably end up
There
back
you go.
in the
Hey,
Iwata.
it's all a journey, Ariel. It's all a journey. It's all your journey.
Final question. Speaking of journey, for those who are new or interested in picking up the hobby, I'm not just talking about gunpla. I'm talking about the hobby in general, be it armor
Sure.
plating. and all
Becoming
that
skill
stuff.
modelers, yeah.
Yeah. What would your advice be for people who are interested to enter this world that we're in?
Honestly, like I mentioned earlier, treat this like sports a little bit. Practice is key. If you want to get good at this and enjoy it to where you see the fun part of it, there's kits for everything. Any interest you have, there's a kit for that, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all great kits. Most of these, even the bad kits, are usually pretty good now. So there's a lot of wonderful kits. There's great paints. There's all the tools we need. All these tools are available readily. And then it's just sitting down. Don't be intimidated by the social media world.
Right.
Follow the instructions in the kit. Don't be that dude where you think you know better. Don't. Try out
Oh, like that guy that builds without instructions, man. Don't be that
I'm
guy.
I'm talking to the people just picking this up.
Right,
Follow
right.
the kit instructions. To Bandai's credit, and I've noticed it because I have Chinese kids that have mistakes. Bandai rarely ever makes a mistake in the instruction, which is, I find very, so just follow them. Look at the things, study them, take your time. No rush. Nobody's in a hurry. And just practice. And practice will get you from beginner or from rookie to veteran.
That's
It's
awesome.
really,
For people who are interested in finding you, we've written them in the description below. Michael, where can they find you? Could you just give us a quick shout
everything's
on
Rinaldi.
everything?
So it's just Facebook and Instagram. They're both Rinaldi Studio. Facebook/Rinaldi Studio, and at Rinaldi Studio on Instagram.
That's awesome. Michael, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's do a quick round on YouTube and see what's going on that front. Lots of people saying hi. Again, it's been 2 hours. I'm very glad that there's no people here.
I know. To be expected.
Just a quick shout out to everybody here. We got Ray Wang, we got Kev Models, we got Jen Uvinko,
Shots fired, yeah.
and we got a little bit more from Chandra. Oh, and Simon Lam is thinking of going to Mosan and SMC. And then Nicholas pretty much loves you. And then Chandra, don't be Ariel. Check your instructions. Shots fired
Right?
from Skyers.
Right.
Love these guys, dude. One of my
Dude, how many times have I snapped two pieces together and I forgot the polycap or something? I'm like, oh,
yeah,
man.
and that's where you get your. Oh, I don't even have. Do I have them here? That's where
I'll
you
be
are
sitting
your
here at 2 a.m.
trusty.
Actually, you guys will laugh. I've got that one too, but you know what I use a lot? I have another X-Acto blade, but I've got the flat
The
blade.
flat. I did that before. I did exactly what you were
because
doing
it gets in
before.
the tighter
It works.
ones, you know, and I try to twist it. You know how many times at 2 a.m. I forgot a polycap? I'm like, oh.
God.
You should hear the expletives fly.
Michael, a pleasure talking to you tonight. I hope to have you back on
guys.
our show. I'm actually doing a new series, guys. Where we're going to get some of the feature builders back on the show. Something a little bit like a coffee break and some Q&A session, working on their new projects, project reveals, project announcements. And Michael, I know we've talked about this. Again,
for sure.
A very, very big pleasure to have you tonight. Really.
It was great chatting with you, Ariel.
Let's do this again soon. But we're gonna say goodbye for now. And guys, thank you for joining. Michael, stay on the line. We'll chat after the show. But that's it for Mike. Say bye to everybody.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody's support too.
Great, thanks. Okay, so wow, 2 hours, guys. That is a new record. I think Michael Rinaldi broke a whole bunch of records. Number one, I didn't know how much he was going to swear tonight, so that was awesome. I'm just kidding, Michael. Number two, the guy could talk as much as I do. That is very rare. Love that about him. The enthusiasm, the personality, the humbleness, the skills, the knowledge, the experience. What more can you ask for a veteran builder like this guy here? Very much a pleasure having Michael Rinaldi. Don't forget to check out all of his links. Check him out on his Instagram. Check him out on his Facebook. Check out his book. That is most important. Check them all out. USA Gundam Stores is carrying them now. So if you're interested in picking up any of the SM or tank art, they will be carrying it. But like the SM, Sazabi, very, very highly recommended on that one. I do stream Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays over at youtube.com and facebook.com/ELPHNT. This episode is powered by USA Gundam Store. Check them out, www.usa. And save when you use discount code N. Also, Gun Primer was mentioned. So yes, Gun Primer is a partner with Mecha, and check them out as well, gunprimer.com, and save with the same discount code of AO10. Guys, thank you so much for joining in. If you like this video and you guys are new to the channel, new to the show, please hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell for all new content's going to out. There's going to be unboxing videos coming up. We have a new build backlog builder on Monday, 9 p.m. EST. So come and hang out. I will reveal all that in the next couple of days. Follow me on my social medias. And that's pretty much it. I had a good night tonight. It was a fun night, and I have to bye for now. So hopefully you guys are having a great evening. Take care. Until next time. Take care.
Hey kids, don't forget to watch AO Mecha Live, streaming Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and youtube.com/AO Mecha. And don't worry, Rick's gonna be just fine. We had a little disagreement is all.